All right, let's get it. Drive time. Friday afternoon, 6 minutes past the hour, 2 o'clock. A little overcast, kind of a chilly March Friday after a really nice week that kind of felt like spring. In for a grip of colder weather over the next week or so, but, March, April in Utah, you never know. Sunshine, snow, rain, we get a bit of everything. Some rain in the forecast tomorrow, snow in the forecast next week, and then maybe we'll get some sunshine next weekend. But as it is, every single day, it's good to have you along for the ride. My name is Spence Checketts. I host this radio show. It is called The Drive with Spence Checketts here on ESPN 700. Porter Larson back in our Broadway Media Studios, downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. Happy Friday to you. Congratulations. You made it. Weekend time. You showed up. You did the things. You earned your weekend, and your weekend starts right now. Jam-packed Friday show. Jam-packed Friday show. The madness of March continued last night. The madness of March continues tonight. We will do some college basketball in the program today. BYU, a great year one under Kevin Young, man. They've got proof of concept. There's no doubt about that. And they were sent packing by a red-hot Alabama basketball team last night. We had a grip of good basketball, both in the college and the pro ranks last night. Bama, like I said, they advanced past Brigham Young. We talked about Mark Sears yesterday, and we talked about one dynamic between these two teams that could prove to be problematic for Brigham Young, and it was. Alabama is one of the best three-point defensive teams in the SEC, and BYU is 228th in the country at guarding the three. BYU does a lot of things well. One of the things they don't do well, guarding the three-point line, something Kevin Young is going to have to look at leading into next year. And Alabama literally set a record for three-point shots made in a game. And Mark Sears set a personal best for three-point shots made in a game, and he became the first player in NCAA history to have more than 10 three-point shots made and more than 8 assists. We also talked about Aiden Holloway yesterday, who went 6 of 13 from three. And Mark Sears and Aiden Holiday become the first teammates to hit more than 6 three-point shots each in an NCAA tournament game. So Alabama needed history to beat BYU, but BYU did themselves no favors with real porous defense on the perimeter, something I have not heard a lot of people talk about today. Florida advances as the number one seed in the West region. They advance on to the Elite Eight. After a little bit of an auspicious start, they pulled away from Maryland there in the second half, 87-71. Jazz fans, are you watching Duke basketball? Cooper Flagg put on an absolute clinic and a show last night. I want to remind you that Cooper reclassified. He should be a senior in high school. He turned 18 3 months ago. And he had 30 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. And it was a really, really good game. Caleb Love had 35 points. But Duke advances on. I think they're the best team in college basketball. My pick to win the national championship, not necessarily a hot take. And Arizona goes home after a Sweet 16 appearance. I think that's the third Sweet 16 for Arizona in the last 4 years, but unable to advance to the Elite Eight this time around. The best basketball game of the night actually took place when many of you may have been sleeping. Many of you probably tapped out after a while. Texas Tech was getting run out of the gym by Arkansas. And then a massive run to finish the game, a 16-3 run over the course of about 4.5 minutes. You don't see that in college basketball very often. They sent the game to overtime. They got a game winner with a couple of seconds left, and Texas Tech sends John Calipari home with an 85-83 win. Now, tonight, the Sweet 16 continues. I think we have 4 awesome games, just like we did last night. We are going to start things off with Ole Miss and Michigan State. It will be Chris Beard. It will be Tom Izzo. Michigan State, the 2 seed out of the South region. Ole Miss, the 6 seed out of the South region. Then Mark Pope in the University of Kentucky as the 3 seed will take on Tennessee as the 2 seed in the Midwest region. That's at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Really good game between 2 really good teams coming up at 7:39. The Auburn Tigers are the number 1 overall seed in this tournament. But the Michigan Wolverines just won the Big Ten championship, and they're playing as well as anybody in the country. That's going to be a barn burner, man. That should be a good one tonight. That one's at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. And then your late-night game will see the 1 seed Houston, of course, out of the Big 12, taking on the 4-seeded Purdue Boilermakers. So there you go. 4 more really good college basketball games tonight. Utah Jazz played last night. They played the Houston Rockets, and breaking news, they lost because, well, you know. So the Jazz actually played okay last night. Houston is a really good basketball team. They're the 2 seed in the Western Conference. But, at this point of the season, everybody kind of knows the deal, and I'm not sure anybody is cheering for the Jazz to actually get wins, because to what end? The Jazz are in action tonight at Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado, to take on the Denver Nuggets. Excited to watch Walker Kessler take on Nikola Jokic if they, play players and try to be competitive. I'm not sure that they will. So we'll do some NBA on the program today. Some shocking news out of the world of pro basketball surfaced just about 3 hours ago. Taylor Jenkins was fired as the Grizzlies head coach after 6 seasons. 6 seasons where he became the winningest head coach in Memphis Grizzlies history. He kind of followed the same path that Quinn Snyder followed. Alex Jensen, too. He was a G League/D League Coach of the Year once upon a time. And he will instantly become a hot name for teams that will be looking for new coaches, and there will be plenty of teams looking for new coaches coming up this offseason. So Taylor Jenkins, it's the 3rd time a coach has left the team midseason after winning at least 40 games during that campaign. It's only the 2nd time in NBA history that after 70 games played with a winning record, a coach has lost his job. So this is one of these things that strikes me as more than meets the eye, and we'll learn more about it probably at some point, over the next few months. The Grizzlies are 0-9 in their last 9 games against teams with winning records, and they have kind of had a bit of a regression from the mean. But this is weird, man. The NBA is kind of flipping the script a little bit and showing the narrative. Like, I guess it doesn't matter if you're elite at your job. You can still get traded like Luka, or you can get fired like Taylor Jenkins. It's kind of wild. So a lot of news out of the world of pro basketball in the program today. Real Salt Lake, it is a game day for RSL coming up tomorrow. The Lads, we are here for the Lads. They are up in Minnesota trying to get 3 points after a rough one at home last week against FC Dallas. Diego Luna back in the fold. Dom Markzuk back in the fold, but no Peel. Peel is the player who had the red card last week. So Peel will be out tomorrow. We'll see how Pablo juggles the lineup. Opening day, Major League Baseball yesterday, so Major League Baseball is here. And we have some news on the Utah women's basketball side of things. Not great news, as Gianna Neepkins, after really a historic season, has hit the transfer portal. We pontificated on the possibility that Gianna would leave the program, but to go to the WNBA, not to play more college basketball. So a tough piece of news for the Utah women's basketball program today, as Gianna Neepkins is high speed ahead to the transfer portal, and we'll see where she lands. The Utah men actually are still playing. How many of you knew that? Well, I will be in Las Vegas for the college basketball crown because I'm a grinder. That's how I do it. So the Utah men are going to take on Butler, round 1, coming up on Monday, and should they win, they'll advance to a Wednesday tilt, and only time will tell if they're going to be able to do that. So we'll get to some of that stuff on the program today with a really, really good guest list. Now, before I tell you who's going to join us, I got to let you know right off the gates that we are giving away 2 tickets to see Kevin Hart, if you're into such things. Kevin Hart is a very famous stand-up comedian, little fella. He's coming to town. We got 2 tickets to give away to Kevin Hart. Now, here's how you win them. You come on out. So it's April 18th. Kevin Hart rolling into town, April 18th. Come on out to Tim Daly Infinity, which is where we're at today on a Friday. We are out and about on the road at 4594 South State Street. Very easy to find. So just put that address in your GPS, 4594 South State Street. ESPN 700 van is right out front, so you can't miss us. Come on in. All you have to do is fill out a little enter to win slip, put it in the enter to win box, and we're going to draw a name before we get out of here at 6 o'clock to give 2 tickets to Kevin Hart coming up on April the 18th. And, of course, our friends out here at Tim Daly Infinity have you covered with vehicles priced to move. The Tim Daly Auto Group, the Forever Warranty is the number one thing you should know about these people because nobody else does it because, honestly, it's not good business. They don't make money off of it. Last time we were here, my buddy Koo, who's the GM here, we talked about it, and they have debated greatly as to whether or not they want to keep doing this because, again, they do not make money off the Forever Warranty. And it is exactly what it sounds like. You buy a car from Tim Daly, you have a warranty on it forever. No questions asked. So come on by and say hello at 4594 South State Street. Enter to win a couple of tickets to see Kevin Hart. We have some very fancy ESPN 700 pens. Who doesn't need a new pen? Come by and get a new pen. You know, Jerry Seinfeld loves pens, so come on by. at Tim Dahle Infinity on a Friday at 4594 South State Street. All right, our first guest right out of the gates will be one of the hippest NBA writers around. He is Howard Beck. Howard will stop by to bat leadoff. Our good buddy from the Ringer from the New York Times once upon a time, the LA Times too, covered the Knicks, covered the Lakers, and does a really, really good job covering the National Basketball Association. So Howard will join us right out of the gates today to bat leadoff on a Friday afternoon. We'll move from Howard Beck to Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune for a little jazz and a little RSL and maybe some other things that Andy has been tweeting about that seem to be on his mind right now. So after Howard rolls by, it's time for Andy Larson. Paul Pugmire, our typical Friday golf guest. We'll do a little golf on a Friday because the weather is not great today, but it's about to get warm consistently. So it's time to dust off those clubs, and it's time to talk a little golf. PGA Tour, maybe a little live golf, probably not. The Masters right around the corner. So maybe we'll get a bit of a Masters preview from our guy Paul today and talk about the world of local golf. University of Utah golf team had a historic couple of months. BYU golf team continues to be really, really good. And right now it's the Texas Children's Houston Open. Scotty Scheffler back on top. Look at that. Scotty Scheffler is still recovering from, quite frankly, a bizarre season last year when he was historic with his performance but also got arrested and then cut his hand on a glass. So he's still coming back from his injury, but he has the lead right now. So we'll learn about this this tournament. It's actually been suspended due to inclement weather. So we'll do some golf with Paul Pugmire coming up on the show today. And then the interim head coach of the Utah men's basketball team, Josh Eilert, will roll by. We'll talk some college basketball crown. As a college basketball fan for most of my life, I want to know from Josh Eilert what it was like to coach next to Bobby Huggins, okay? And what it was like to coach with him. And then what his future plans are, whether or not he's talked to Alex Jensen about maybe staying on staff. He and his family, of course, here in Salt Lake City. Coach Eilert and his wife have 3 kids. There's a personal side to this business that oftentimes we ignore. They moved to Salt Lake to take the Utah job, and now the future for Coach Eilert is unclear. But we'll see what he has to say about that today. And then one of the good friends of the show and one of the sweetest guys around, Larry Fulmer, is going to roll by. Now, Larry Fulmer, of course, the Fulmer family is Utah sports royalty. Gene Fulmer is among, if not the most accomplished athlete from the state of Utah. Well, they just finished the Fulmer Boxing Legacy Center, so we're going to tell you about that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour before we launch into the 5 o'clock hour of the program. So, Howard Beck, Andy Larson, Paul Pugmire, Josh Eilert, Larry Fulmer, me, Spence Checketts, live today at Tim Dahle Infinity at 4594 South State Street. Come on by and enter to win Kevin Hart tickets. That's right. All you have to do is put your name in the box. We'll draw a name before we get out of here at 6 o'clock. And about 20 minutes or so, I guess this would be northwest of our location right now, is where we find Porter Larson on a Friday afternoon. Would you like me to enter your name into the box to win Kevin Hart tickets?
I would like you to add me for my second entry into the Kevin Hart tickets. Yes, please.
You're not allowed. You're not allowed. You work for that was a trick question and you failed on a Friday. You're not allowed to win.
At the very least, give me some of those pens. I know you were being a little sarcastic, but those pens that our station has, the ESPN 700 ones, the X96 ones, they're good pens. They're good ballpoint pens.
Who said I was being sarcastic? Everybody needs a good pen.
I just sensed it. That's all.
Yeah, well, your senses are off, buddy. I like the pens. So, you know what? You don't get a pen, and you can't see Kevin Hart.
My week has been ruined.
I know, man. All right, our first guest today on a Friday is going to be Howard Beck, one of the hippest NBA writers around from the Ringer. But live today from Tim Dahle Infinity, 4594 South State Street, courtesy of our good friends at Prize Picks. It is time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
Springtime is here and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the Diamond in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first-inning runs, take your pick of more or less for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use that promo code ESPN700 and you get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 bet. Now, the nice thing is you don't even have to win the $5 bet. They're just going to load you up with $50. You might as well try it. See if you like it. Courtesy of our good friends at Prize Picks, you can run your game all season long. All right, the Madness of March continued last night. It will continue tonight with Sweet 16 action. So let's dig into a couple of storylines before we bring in Howard Beck coming up as our first guest live today at Tim Dahle Infinity. BYU, year one under Kevin Young, clearly has proof of concept, okay? So Kevin Young, after the game, I thought was really, really good. Talking about not just in a vacuum what had happened against Alabama, but from a 30,000-foot viewpoint about what they accomplished year one. We seem to forget, and we talk about this quite a bit. You know, Utah basketball picked to finish last in the Big 12 this year, and they did not finish last. And Craig actually, in my estimation, kind of outshot his expectation based off the talent he had at his disposal, but he still lost a job. BYU was picked to finish ninth, okay? I think we forget this. I certainly did. BYU picked to finish ninth in the Big 12, and they were one of the last 16 teams standing in the country. So I know last night stung a little bit, and we'll get into it as far as what happened. But if you're a BYU fan, I think you have to look at this year as a rousing Grand Slam success with year one under Kevin Young. Again, proof of concept. You know the culture he's trying to build. You know the style that he wants to play. You know exactly the type of messages and messaging and identity that they have on that staff and what they want to convey to recruits and players. They are about to send, at least in my opinion, Yegor Dem into the NBA. I think Yegor is going to leave. I don't know. He talked about this after the game, but he was impressive enough throughout the tournament and was good last night. And if you look at most mock drafts, Yegor is a top 10 pick. The landscape of college basketball has changed, but I still maintain if you're a lottery pick, you got to leave and you got to go pro. That's just my opinion. You can come back, and certainly with BYU's NIL capabilities, Yegor can come back and probably make close to what he could make as a rookie in the NBA. But what they'll never be able to do is make the money that you can make in the NBA when you get to that second, third, fourth, and if you're Chris Paul, maybe your fifth max deal. Like, that's the type of generational wealth that college will never be able to supply. But if Yegor wants to come back, and he talked about it last night, and they get everybody back outside of the seniors, they're going to lose Fus Traore. Trevin Nell is finally moving on. So they're going to lose Traore. Trevin Nell is gone. Trey Stewart is gone. So those three players are on their way out. Mawat Mag is a senior transfer from Rutgers who will leave as well. I am curious about the future of Cannon Catchings, based upon the comments that he had last night after the game. He looked like a puppy that somebody had stole his Chewy toy. I mean, he was depressed, he was sad, and there are already rumors, because Cannon, the reports are he's highly paid because he is a pro prospect. Only as a freshman, you know, there were moments here or there that he showed that he's a pretty solid player, but he fell out of favor with Kevin Young and fell out of the rotation. Only played 5 minutes last night. So we'll see who they return, but they could return Richie Saunders. They will return Keba Keita. They will return Dallin Hall, most likely. They will return Dawson Baker. The Boscovich kid is probably back. And if Yegor comes back alongside A.J. Debansa, I'm telling you, this team next year could enter as a preseason top 15 or even higher. Okay, real quick before we go to break, because I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. Yes, Alabama was historic with their shot making. And yes, Mark Sears had entered that. Prior to last night, Mark Sears was 5 of 25 from three in his previous, I think, 7 games. So he was in a slump. Mark Sears set a personal best last night, going 10 of 16 from three. Chris Youngblood went 5 of 11. Aiden Holloway went 6 of 13. And as a team, they went 25 of 51, which is literally historic. But you go back and watch how many of those threes were contested. We talked about this yesterday. The one number that was a real line of delineation between these two teams is Alabama is one of the best teams in the SEC at guarding the three, and BYU is one of the worst teams in the country at guarding the three. Hence, Brigham Young 6 of 30 from three last night, and Alabama 25 of 51. So yes, historic shot making, but these are high-level players. If you allow them to take walk-in practice type threes, they're gonna eat you up just like they did last night. So we'll get to more of this coming up in a little bit as BYU season comes to an end last night, and we're gonna bring in Howard Beck coming up on the other side. But my guy Koo Kim, the general manager out here at Tim Dahle, what's up, dude? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's always a pleasure to see you.
I know. I love seeing you. Reminds me of our college days.
I know, man. And it's wild. Here we are 25 years later. Is that a Primo golf hat?
Yeah.
Are you swinging a club these days?
Not with kids, no. But most golf I get in is at Top Golf.
All right, man. Well, we should get out and play. We should get out and play if you have a chance. All right. Tim Dahle Infinity, 4594 South State Street. Let's start with a forever warranty because, I was across the street last month. We did a remote last month. And every time it's explained to me, it simply sounds like it's not real, like it's too good to be true. And usually, if something is too good to be true, it usually isn't true. But this is real. You guys do this. Let's talk about it.
This is real. So any vehicle, 2019 or newer, less than 65,000 miles, you get the forever warranty with every purchase. So it is. It does sound too good to be true. Even other dealers are wondering how we do it. But Tim's been offering it since I want to say about 10 years or so. But it's an awesome product, especially when you're buying a car from Tim Dahle. I mean, that's where I would go.
And it means what it sounds, correct?
Yeah, forever warranty.
Yeah. Period, end of story. No questions asked.
There's some caveats. Let's say if you buy a 2010 or something and then the engine goes out, but the engine's $10,000, they're going to give you the valuation of the car as opposed to just fixing the engine. But it's still a good deal for anybody that's buying a car through us.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, 0% on qualified new vehicles?
Yeah, just like any other manufacturer, we have the 0%. But, if you're going 72 months, you have rates as low as 1.9. Money factors are just as competitive. So it's a really good time to buy right now, especially with tariffs being enacted in April, I think.
Okay. And that leads us to the trade values, right?
Yeah, so everyone's worried about the tariffs making the prices go up, but the silver lining in that is that your trade values go up too. We noticed that this last week, especially at the auction. Cars that we could buy a week prior, they're now worth about $2,000 more.
Oh, really?
So that's the silver lining in the tariffs, that your trade values now go up too.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. All right, let's talk about your EVs and your hybrids you have in stock.
Yeah, so as soon as the EV credits went into place, we had a huge focus on I guess, having inventory that focused on EVs and plug-in hybrids. So we're, at the point of sale, you get the $4,000 discounted towards your purchase.
Very nice. Last thing, every time I see these QX80s on the road, I mean, that's a beautiful vehicle. It kind of looks like, it really is the Infinity kind of like masterpiece SUV. Is that fair to say?
I would say so. It's probably their signature piece, the one that's bringing people in, their flagship inventory right now.
And you only have 17 left.
We only have 17. We're going to run out of them because the new production doesn't hit until August. But the thing that we're worried about is if the tariffs do get enacted and placed against the new QX80s, $100,000 QX80 will now be $125,000.
So come in now and get it done before the tariffs bump the price up.
Right, and I would hate to tell people, hey, buy now because of the tariffs. The real focus is if you're looking to buy one, you should buy it now.
Okay, very, very nice. Last thing, of course, we're at Tim Dahle Infinity today, which is 4594 South State Street. What's the best way to start the process? Just come in, go on the website. What would you recommend?
Look, just come down and test drive it. You may want to pay more. Who knows?
Okay, man, very nice. We're also giving away 2 tickets to see Kevin Hart. 4594 South State Street. My guy, Koo, great to see you, okay?
Yeah, good to see you, too.
Come on by and say what's up. If you want to go see Kevin Hart, all you have to do is enter to win, and we will draw a name prior to us getting out of here at 6 o'clock. It is Tim Dahle Infinity. The address is 4594 South State Street. And Howard Beck will be our first guest coming up on the other side on a Friday drive on ESPN 700. All right, the madness of March continues tonight with more Sweet 16 action after 4 really good games last night. We're live today at Tim Dolly Infinity at 4594 South State Street. We are giving away tickets to see Kevin Hart, who's coming to Salt Lake on April the 18th. All you have to do is come on out, like our guy Joe just did, and fill out a little Enter to Win form and put it in the Enter to Win box, and we're going to draw a name prior to us getting out of here at about 6 o'clock Mountain Time. At 4594 South State Street, our first guest on a Friday afternoon, our guy Howard Beck from The Ringer. Howard, happy Friday, sir. How are you?
Doing all right, Spence. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So the NBA is wild this year because once upon a time it was like, hey, if you're an elite generational player, you won't get traded. And if you're a really good coach, you're probably not going to get fired. Taylor Jenkins fired today. After nearly 6 seasons with Memphis, Howard, this reeks as one of those, like, we'll find out more later on. But what's your reaction to the news? And if you have any information as to why they made this decision, I'm all ears, man.
Well, when Luka got traded, I said many times in the days and weeks that followed, there's got to be more. We'll find out eventually. And we still don't know anymore. So we're just in very strange times in the NBA. But like you, and trust me, you and I are not the only ones thinking this way. You know, anybody I've texted with this afternoon around the league, everybody was shocked to various degrees, and everybody kind of felt like there's something else here. It can't be just basketball, because you don't fire the coach of a playoff-bound team with 9 games left in the regular season. Like, if you didn't like where things were going with him, or you had a philosophical disagreement or whatever, you either fire him a month or two ago or a month or two from now. You don't do it 9 games before the playoffs. And so where's the urgency or the necessity of doing it on March 28th? Like, this just doesn't make a lick of sense. And there's not much precedent for it, certainly in recent decades. I'm on a thread with some people where they were trying to find other examples of playoff-bound teams firing their coach this late in the season, and you got to go back decades. So it's very strange. It is, I would say, I don't mean to be overly provocative here, but it is kind of suspicious. And among the other things that I immediately heard from people, you know, again, texting folks around the league, was he's going to get snapped up in a heartbeat this summer. You know, wherever, I don't know where the next openings are going to be, but anybody looking for a coach this summer, Taylor Jenkins is going to be the top of their list because he's that good and he's got that great of a rep. So I don't know what's going on. And if I had any intel, I would try to share it now, but I am in the dark as well.
Tomas Isalo is the interim coach. He was the lead assistant for Coach Jenkins, Taylor Jenkins in Memphis. I don't know much about him other than what I've read. Any insight as to who this guy is who's now leading the Memphis program?
Nope.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, this is not somebody who was on the tip of everybody's tongue in NBA circles. I mean, I'm sure in coaching circles, like hardcore coaching circles, there's a familiarity. But no, I was not aware of him.
So, I mean, kind of reading around a little bit and digging into what Memphis has done as of late, because everybody likes to watch Memphis. They've got one of the most exciting players in the league when he's, not suspended or not hurt in Ja Morant. They're 0-9 in their last 9 against winning teams. The defense is kind of taken a couple of steps back. I don't know, man. I'm just trying to make sense of this. Like, who do you think they are in the landscape? As far as their peers and the teams around them, I don't think anybody believes they're winning the West this year, but I think they had shown enough that they could probably win a round, right? So who are they now in the Western Conference?
It's a weird year in the West as it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Rockets are going to finish in the top 2 or 3, and they're really young, and they're the team that other teams in the West were thinking, like, I want them in the first round, and then it was I want Memphis in the first round. The Grizzlies are certainly struggling of late. There's no question, but per usual, they've had injury issues, and per usual, Ja Morant has been primary among them. They also changed up their offense this year, and it kind of de-emphasized Ja to an extent. It became more it was a better, more dynamic offense overall in the sense of it being less predictable and less just pick and roll dependent. But one possibility here is that maybe players and maybe front office weren't all that thrilled with the changes to the offense. Jaren Jackson Jr. is having a breakout season, and they once again are having some really nice, unexpected contributions from, guys like Jalen Wells, a rookie who's been in, kind of in the fringes of the Rookie of the Year race, and Scottie Pippen Jr., who's been around for years but has popped with them specifically. Like, they've done a really good job of building a roster and a program, and this is such a weird signal to send up at this stage of the season.
All right, Howard. I hate that we're about to do this, but we're about to do it.
Don't.
I know, man, but here's what I'm going to say, okay? I've had more than a few people over the years. I'm basically 20 years doing this job in this market. And because we are an NBA market and because my background is what it is, I cover the NBA, not just the Jazz. I cover the league, and I love the game. I've talked about this before. I think when the best athletes and players in the world care about their craft and show up and play hard, basketball is a beautiful thing to watch. But I've had more than a few over the years compare it to WWE and say that it's scripted and talk about conspiracies and Patrick Ewing and frozen envelope and all the things, right? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, not on or off air, not basketball or politics, because, well, let's not go there today. However, when LeBron James goes on an ESPN talk show, namely the Pat McAfee show, to crack on an ESPN personality, and then 5 minutes after the ESPN personality is cracked on, he releases his YouTube video responding. And then he goes on his show and then takes a bunch of cheap shots and does get personal while trying to say he's not getting personal. And then there's this media personality chiming in, and that it feels like it's WWE, and there's nothing that I can say to combat the people that claim that this is now a total bleep show that is centered upon the worldwide leader that is one of the NBA's major media partners. And I don't know what to say about it, man. Like, you've been doing this a long, long time. I don't want to do it either, but here we are. What do you make of this clown show where we find ourselves in with LeBron and all of the subplots and characters surrounding him?
Oh, boy. I'm going to keep this brief. I will
Please
just say
do.
One, I don't quite buy the WWE aspect of it. I mean, there's a theatrical element to this that I understand why that might feel analogous to people, but that is a scripted sport. The NBA is not scripted, so I don't even want to go there because it conflates things, and then people think that any of this outside drama somehow reflects on the product itself, and these are separate things, and they're completely in the hands of the people who are doing it. This is not Adam Silver. Trust me, is not suggesting or backing any of this. ESPN's not smart enough to create this on their own. This is a bunch of people. This is not a bunch of people. This is two people. This is really just two people. And why it's gone this far, this long, is beyond me. Unfortunately, there's an entire ecosystem around it of other media outlets and other networks who are all feeding off of it and dissecting it, and I'm not going to contribute to it. I don't care.
I don't either, but I will ask you, why do you think LeBron James doesn't have to say anything to anybody about anything he's ever accomplished? And he is this generation's that guy. I don't really get into the whole, who's the greatest of all time, but whatever. And his resume is unapproachable. It's unassailable. He was put on a magazine cover at the age of 17, and we all said to him, "You're next," and he was. Why does he wade into the crap with all these bad actors? That's my question to you.
I don't know. I would just say that my good friend Bill Oram, who spent some time in your market, wrote a great piece he wrote a great column for the Oregonian that people should go check out.
Porter, book Bill Oram on the show next week, will you?
You got it.
Thanks, pal. All right, moving on. How about we talk Tankapalooza 2025, because that's where we find ourselves. I know you don't watch college basketball. I know you don't fill out a bracket. But let me ask you, based off of people you talk about, as to whether or not Cooper Flagg is going to be worth it for fan bases like ours here in Salt Lake that simply continue to suffer.
I mean, by all accounts, he will be worth it. But I do think that there's some disagreement or just some, I don't know, caution from some folks about the kind of player he'll be, right? Like, I think, as you know, and I've watched some of him. Obviously, I've been pretty glib about the fact that I don't really watch college basketball, but I have a sense of what Cooper Flagg is about, and from folks I talk to, it seems to me that he's going to be an incredibly valuable player who can do a lot of different things for your team. I don't know if he is going to be like your prototypical, like, you know, perennial MVP, top 10, top 15 type player, perennial All-NBA, you know, scoring leader type, or you know, is he going to put up, you know, 25-point triple-doubles all the time? I don't know if you want to go that far. There's a lot that he can do for a team in terms of both scoring and playmaking. And, you know, he's got size and he's got length. I don't know if he's absolutely positively a guy that you're building a playoff team around. Like, is he a franchise savior type by himself, or is he merely, you know, a guy whose best is like your you know, a 1B type, right? Which is not terrible, by the way. Like, I have referred constantly to, for instance, Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, who are now playing together, as basically better as 1Bs, right? Both of them won championships with LeBron, but they can't really carry a team on their own. So I don't know if Cooper Flagg is going to be in that top tier, or the 1B tier, or the secondary tier. We never do know, by the way. You know, there's a few guys who have come into the league where everybody was certain from day one that they were going to be absolutely just franchise-changing talents. And most years we think somebody is, and then, you know, there's something a little bit less. So I don't know. Scouts can't see the future, neither can I.
So I've been asking our guest this week the following question, and I want to be clear, I'm not leading the witness, but I am going to make you, Howard Beck, either Cooper Flagg's father or his agent, somebody that is in his ear, and I'm going to ask you and present the following options: the New Orleans Pelicans, the Utah Jazz, the Washington Wizards, and the Charlotte Hornets. Now, there are at least 8 teams trying to lose intentionally right now, and maybe 10. But those are the 4 that have the best chance of landing the number 1 overall pick. If you were Cooper Flagg's agent, if you were Cooper Flagg's father, who are you hoping to see once that envelope is opened up in May? Charlotte, Washington, New Orleans, or Utah?
Interesting. Definitely
Finally.
not Charlotte.
Jeez.
Definitely not Charlotte. They're just, that franchise has just had such a terrible run in recent years, and it's through different ownership groups and different front offices. But I just don't trust the Hornets and their trajectory. New Orleans is interesting because they've had a lot of talent, and I think they've actually done a really good job overall of putting together rosters. They just can't stay healthy. But I do think of those 4 teams, New Orleans would be the most attractive by purely the fact that they are stacked. They've got veterans. They've got, and you know, Zion has actually been pretty good this season. I would like my son to go to a team where he doesn't have to be the savior on day one. I would like him to go somewhere that's ready to win, where he can, you know, get his sea legs in the NBA, figure out how to be a pro, and not have it all on him from day one. And the problem with Utah and Washington is that they're both so far from competing. Now, Washington has, I guess, in both situations, they both have assembled some decent veteran talent, and they have not spun off everything. So there's some basis there. But the Pelicans should have been a playoff team this year, if not for injuries. And so of those 4, I think that's the place you can go and succeed the soonest with the least pressure on your shoulders. Does that make sense?
It does. And, you know, my case for the Jazz is simply the development history of the front office. And I do think Will is a really bright young coach. Now, after the Jazz got trounced by Memphis the other night, Will lost it on his players. He lost it in the postgame press conference. And I am curious as to, because Will has 2 years left on his deal. They were both options, and the Jazz picked both of them up. And I don't know, the interesting storyline, and I guess I'll say narrative, although I hate that term now, that's kind of taking place out here. And I think I've talked to you about this. The Jazz are now propagating a message to some media outlets that they are not rebuilding yet because they've been tearing down for 3 years, to which I roll my eyes mightily, okay? And so ultimately you land on Cooper Flagg. If you're Cooper Flagg and if you're his reps, do you want him surrounded by Lauri Markkanen, who's a really good player, Walker Kessler, who's a very young big, or the other direction the Jazz claim to be considering is, okay, now we have our cornerstone, now we have our centerpiece, and the rebuild starts right now, and they just get rid of everybody, including Markkanen, including Kessler, and they start their quote-unquote rebuild after their quote-unquote teardown for 3 years if they land Cooper Flagg coming up in the draft.
It would be interesting because they really could go either direction. They could say Cooper Flagg's the missing piece, and we want Markkanen and Kessler here because we've got veterans who, again, like same case I was making for New Orleans. I think I would say this in almost every single case. I don't care how high the ceiling is on the superstar, the projected superstar you're getting in the draft. Every single one of them. And I would even put, LeBron back in 2003 included in this, and he didn't make the playoffs his first year. Every single one of them is better off coming to a team that has other guys who can do some things at a high level. Not necessarily superstars themselves, but you don't want to join a naked roster and have to go through all the pain of losing and of having it all on your shoulders, and you're taking all the hits. My guess is, and I haven't talked to anybody about this, but my thought would be if the Jazz got Cooper Flagg, it's not suddenly let's blow up the rest of the roster. They've got all these picks still that they can deal. They've got all these other ways that they can start adding immediately. And I would guess if you got a player of his caliber, that's what you do. You start immediately building up around him. You're not. I don't think you're tearing down further. I think if they don't get him, and if they don't like the draft position they ended up in, and if the guy that they got is not somebody who's going to change their trajectory, that would be an argument to further tear down as opposed to turning the corner and trying to build. And as we've discussed before, unless you're about to be in a position where you can hit the gas and start winning again, I don't see why you're holding on to Markkanen anymore.
I agree. Howard, I didn't mean to make you grumpy. I'm going to let you go so you can go grab a flat white in Brooklyn, chill out, take some breaths, and go find some more intelligent conversation on a Friday, will you?
Always a pleasure, Spence. We'll talk to you next week, man.
All right, the great Howard Beck from The Ringer brought to you today by IFA Country Stores. With IFA's Crabgrass Preventer plus lawn food, you'll stop those pesky weeds before they even start. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. Check out one of the 18 Utah stores or online at ifa.coop. All right, we are live today at Tim Daly Infinity. We're giving away Kevin Hart tickets. We only have a handful of entries so far. So if you want to see Kevin Hart, he's coming to Salt Lake City on April the 18th. And the address is 4594 South State Street. Come on by, enter to win. And we will draw a name before we get out of here coming up at 6 o'clock. The head man, the boss man, the GM, Koo Kim, my buddy, on a Friday at Tim Daly Infinity. What's up, man?
Not much. Just trying to sell some cars.
Are you a Kevin Hart fan?
Yeah, I think he's really, really funny. I haven't been to a comedy show in so long. I usually go to the smaller venues, but that'd be a fun one to go to, actually.
Well, and you have kids, so you don't do anything fun ever.
Yeah, you're right. You know how that goes.
Luckily, mine's 23, so I'm back doing fun stuff. You better enjoy it, man. You're going to blink. They're going to be out of the house. How old are your kids these days?
I have. They range from 13 to 6 years old, so they're all
three?
young.
You have 3?
4.
You have 4?
Yeah, 4.
So you waited for a minute to get started, then it was boom, it was on.
Well, luckily, when I got married, I married somebody that was 11 years younger than me.
Look at you. All right. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm glad it worked for you. All right. You cannot get a forever warranty on a partner, but you can on a car.
Right.
Okay, so ultimately that was an awkward transition. And every time I'm out here, I bring up the forever warranty because, honestly, I don't think it exists anywhere else. Is that fair to say?
Nobody else has a forever warranty, at least in the state of Utah that I know of.
Yeah, right. So what exactly is it?
It's basically free repairs on anything related to the powertrain, right? Mm-hmm. It's on select vehicles. I mean, we can't do it on Land Rovers and Mercedes and BMWs, but basically all the domestics and most of the Japanese imports that are 2019 or newer, less than 65,000 miles, you get the forever warranty.
So remind me, I think last time I was here, you shared an anecdote that prior to the start of the season, you guys had a meeting about continuing the forever warranty because it really isn't great business for you. Is that, am I remember that correctly?
That's correct. That is actually correct. One of the other things, too, is I think the salespeople have actually taken it for granted, not knowing that that's a huge selling point. Because one of the business models that Tim Daly has, he likes all the vehicles to be price ranked 1, 2, or 3 based off of the radius. But then we also give away the free forever warranty. And then on top of that, we give you car washes, too, because each Tim Daly store has access to a car wash that you can wash your car through. So
That's
there's a lot
awesome.
of benefits.
Yeah, and there is the forever warranty, car washes for life. Is it the Tim Daly family? Is it all Tim Daly dealerships?
All Tim Daly dealerships here in Utah and in Colorado.
Utah and in Colorado. There you go. Well, we're at Tim Daly Infinity today, 4594 South State Street. So let's talk about these QX80s.
When they first came out, just like any other manufacturer, you don't get the best rates around because they're hoping to make all the money off of them. But now they're highly incentivized. They're giving you 2.9%. Money factors are just as competitive. So now you're seeing people leasing them left and right. The other hot car that Infinity has, the QX60, and that's as low as 1.9 at 72%. We're not going to mislead you with that being at 36% or anything, but the QX60 is actually at 1.9%.
So before I set you loose, we're all learning something today. So tell us about the tariffs and why it actually could benefit a car buyer right now.
Well, right now, everyone's worried about what the tariffs are going to do with these new cars that are being imported, right? And everyone, if you do the math at 25% on a $100,000 car, once these new cars come in, it'll be $125,000. But the benefit or the other side of it is now your trade values do go up as well. So the market's already changed for the trade-ins, but they haven't adjusted for the new cars yet. So right now is the perfect time for you to trade in a car, get all the money for it, and then buy a new car before the tariffs hit.
All right, my man. We'll chat with you throughout the rest of the afternoon. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
My buddy Koo, he's the GM out here, and we are live today giving away Kevin Hart tickets at Tim Daly Infinity, which is 4594 South State Street. So if you're on your way home like our guy Joe was from work, or duck out of work early, we're pretty centrally located. Whether you're north or south, we're right off the freeway at Tim Daly Infinity, which is 4594 South State Street, giving away Kevin Hart tickets. We'll draw a name for a couple of tickets coming up before we get out of here, right before 6 o'clock. ESPN 700 fancy ballpoint pens. I don't know if they're ballpoint, but they're pens. So whatever. Come by and say what's up. Tim Daly Infinity at 4594 South State Street on this Friday afternoon. All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Coming up on the other side, Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune stops by. We'll bounce around a couple of different topics with Andy. Update on the world of pro golf coming up with Paul Pugmire. Utah interim head coach Josh Eilert is our guest in the 4 o'clock hour. Then Larry Fulmer will join us as well. So we have a jam-packed Friday show. Oh, we have some breaking news. You know what? We'll get to it on the other side. Breaking news coming up on the other side concerning, you know what? I'm not going to tell you. It's a tease. You're going to have to stay tuned. Some breaking news coming up. Start 3 o'clock hour. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Just washing down my peanut butter and grape jelly Uncrustable on a Friday. I'm a grown-up. I don't care what any of you say, but I like being Uncrustable. Got a little breaking news courtesy of Sportico. According to, I think it's Eben Novi-Williams, somebody who I don't know, is reporting that David Blitzer is, according to this, nearing a deal to sell Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals to the Miller family. Of course, everyone knows the Miller family as the longtime owners and stewards of the Utah Jazz, and now they're undertaking a project to try to bring Major League Baseball to our market, and apparently the Miller family is looking to buy Real Salt Lake. So we'll get into some details here. Our next guest might have a couple of thoughts, is my guess. He is Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune. All right, Andy, right out of the gates, what do you make of what's being reported by Sportico today?
Yeah, I've been reaching out to a couple of sources over the last hour or so since the news broke, since Sportico reported that. Obviously want to confirm it and make sure that it's true. So I'll say this first, this is totally in speculation zone. I can't independently confirm that. It does make sense with some things that have been happening around RSL and some things that have been happening at the state legislature this year. So, it does help me kind of put together the puzzle if it should be true. And honestly, Sportico is, a really highly respected publication. It almost certainly is true. It does also make sense, whereas, pretty clear that, David Blitzer and RSL clearly hadn't seen any kind of investment from ownership in the last few months. And obviously the team has been suffering from it as a result. But, hey, now all of a sudden that makes a little bit of sense. If you're in the middle of selling the team, you're probably not excited about investing $5 or $10 million in a striker when, it could be a new ownership taking over here soon. So, I think it's interesting. I think, it'll be a different philosophy of ownership. It will be interesting to see if Brian Smith is still a part of the RSL ownership group in addition, or if that, his portion of shares in the team would be removed. Blitzer's going to make a lot of money on it, with how much the Royals are worth now compared to what they were when, he got the expansion fee of $2 million. That's good. He's going to make, I'm guessing, in the realm of $50 to $150 million on the sale, even though he only bought RSL, 3 years ago in 2022 now.
Yeah, make no mistake. You can say what you want about David Blitzer. He does not do deals where he doesn't make a lot of money. I mean, that's why he's worth, close to $4 billion. And I believe Dave Blitzer owns 6 teams, Andy, worldwide, 6 or 7 soccer clubs worldwide. And my understanding is RSL by far is the smallest property and maybe the one that he doesn't pay the most attention to. I mean, I think he's been here twice since he bought the club. And I think one of the times was when he actually bought the club. So do you think this is simply a dollars and cents deal for Dave Blitzer as opposed to, anything other than that? I mean, it feels like this is just kind of a cash grab, and only time will tell, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, or it goes the other way around, and maybe the Millers are extremely interested buyers and want to expand their ownership and their portfolio, and maybe giving Blitzer a fee he can't pass up. I mean, look, I think the business of Major League Soccer isn't wildly different than it was in 2022. Obviously, the Apple TV deal has been signed since then, but we kind of knew that was a possibility then. And then, I think it could go either way. You're right that, Blitzer was not terribly involved. And, that being said, I think there are bigger and smaller clubs that he owns in Europe. And, that he wasn't involved is not unusual in those situations. So, I think, again, this is probably a move that would make sense for him because of the money and the outlook and the ability to make profit on it, and maybe the Millers' interest in holding, one of the only local professional sports teams that we have, and it just kind of makes sense from that point of view rather than necessarily thinking that, again, it's just not unusual that Blitzer's not involved, because that's basically the case across all of his sports franchises.
So, according to the Sportico article, this deal in the middle of a significant jump, as you kind of alluded to earlier, Andy, in NWSL valuations. So when the Royals originally moved, teams were selling for about $1 or $2 million. by the time Dave Blitzer executed the option in 2023. And the expansion fees right now are securing fees in the area of $53 million. Denver just agreed to pay $110 million for an expansion fee for a team out of the NWSL. But you referenced the Ryan piece of this, and I'll be a little bit careful about what I say out loud into a microphone, but I'll say my guess is this means Ryan is completely out of the mix financially, otherwise. I mean, if Dave Blitzer was there twice, I don't know how many times Ryan was there, and I had Kamrani on the show earlier this week, and I asked CK, like, over under 3.5 RSL players that Ryan Smith could even name. Like, I don't think he gives a rip. I don't think he cares about the Royals. I don't think he cares about RSL. I think he's high speed ahead to basketball and hockey, and that's fine. You know, whatever his priorities are his priorities. But my guess is this transaction means Ryan is out. What's your guess?
That would be my guess too, but again, then it becomes a more complicated transaction, right? Like then you have you have to sell two different partners shares to the Miller Group, and obviously that's definitely possible. And the Arctos sports partners probably at this point have a better relationship with the Smith Group. I'm not aware of any ties between Arctos and the Miller family, so that would be kind of a even fourth party that would probably have to be involved if the Miller Group were to try to buy all of the shares. I mean, I'll say the Jazz, the Miller family did co-own a portion of the Jazz when Ryan Smith bought them, right? Like, I think it was 20% that they retained upon selling a majority share in 2020. So would not be the first time that they have split. And maybe we see kind of a similar thing here where there's like a transitionary period where, Ryan Smith retains his shares for a year or two before then selling those to the Miller family. But I wouldn't expect it to be like a long-term co-owning relationship now.
This would be the fourth different ownership transfer in the 20-year history of the club. Yeah, that's right. 20 years, 4 ownership groups. Does that say anything to you about the market? Does it say anything to you about the club? Does it say anything to you about the league?
Not especially, honestly.
All right.
So first of all, about the league, and this is the first MLS sale since RSL, the first RSL in 2022, right? So we haven't seen that in the last 3 years. I just think that it was kind of different situations at each time, right? Like, I mean, what happened with your dad and can probably explain it to the audience better than I can. Deloitte got himself in hot water and was a really uniquely it's just a weird, unique owner, I guess, in a lot of weird ways. I think RSL fans and people who here locally will understand that. And then it's pretty clear that this situation was about an investor getting a good deal at a good time and then getting out at a time that it seems like would make sense to him. So, I don't know that I see a lot of problems there other than there wasn't at any point like a billionaire that loved the sport in a way that, say, Larry loved the Jazz or Ryan loves the Jazz. Like, I think maybe, there just wasn't kind of that intersection of huge amounts of money and huge amounts of love for the game that we've seen in Jazz history. And I guess now we're seeing it a little bit with the hockey club, although we're exactly 9 months into that. It's still way too soon to tell.
Andy Larson is joining us. We are just discussing the breaking news that Sportico reported just about an hour ago or so. According to Sportico, Dave Blitzer is nearing a deal to sell Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals to the Miller family, who we all know as owners and stewards of the Utah Jazz for a number of different years, of course. So let's stay in the space. And I want to be clear, we're discussing possibilities. We're not reporting any of this because there simply are a lot of things that we just don't know. But what we do know, Andy, is the Millers are in the midst of a project to hopefully land Major League Baseball here in our market and building a stadium out on the west side, the District Fair Park area. I'm not exactly sure what they're calling it. I'm sure you know. But let's just discuss the possibility and whether or not you think the possibility is real if the Millers are able to complete this transaction of building a new soccer facility in Salt Lake, which is where we tried to build it in the first place. Do you think that's likely, or do you think they invest some funds and kind of touch up America First Field and the riot, the way that the Blitzer group and Ryan Smith claimed that they were going to in the first place?
I think it's an option. And honestly, I will give the Blitzer group credit. Like, I do think America First Field in Sandy Lake does look better. They have touched it up compared to what that field was when it was sold. I think there have been significant improvements. And again, when the Blitzer group first bought the team, they did make real on-pitch investments too, right? Like Andres Gomez and Chicho, and they actually did spend money. So as far as like the stadium goes, in the Power District, which is the name of the Fair Park development, that's a Larry H. Miller deal. And it's interesting, the state legislature this year passed a bill, Senate Bill 336. Previously, that bill, was designed to funnel money towards that district in the case a Major League Baseball stadium was built. And it was pretty clear it had to be a big major league. So, in other words, there's a provision in there that said the combined payroll average of the teams in that league has to be over $100 million. So that means NBA, that means MLB. That I don't think NHL qualifies, or at least it's right on the kind of the precipice of that $100 million number. Major League Soccer definitely does not qualify. The average payroll is around $10 million. So, what that means, that provision was removed in this SB 336. So essentially, what that means is the stadium that could go in the Power District doesn't necessarily now have to be a Major League Baseball stadium. It could be a Major League Soccer stadium. And, I think the Miller Group is still optimistic about expansion. I mean, I talked to Steve Starks about it. Let's see, that was Wednesday. And he said, I'll read the quote for you. "We continue to be, in our estimation, the most prepared market for expansion. Baseball is not focused on expansion right now, so there's no formal process to go through. But when they are ready to kick that off, we believe we are in the best position." And that continues to be their stance, and they continue to believe that MLB will undergo an expansion process in the next 5 years. But if that doesn't happen, or if, they select Portland or whatever, then, maybe this MLS stadium and a new option there is a fallback option. And I'm curious to see how that goes. Originally, SB 336 allowed for multiple stadiums to be in the Power District, which, kind of would clarify that a little bit, but that provision was removed. And so that money can still only go to one stadium, not to two. So, interesting stuff. I think we're super early in this process, but I do think it's a legitimate possibility that we see a new RSL, a new MLS stadium at the Fair Park one day.
Last thing on this, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, we're all awaiting news on additions. We're all awaiting news on talent acquisitions, and they acquired like an international spot from Cincinnati or whatever today. I saw like, hey, RSL made a deal. I'm like, okay, finally. And Pablo was on the show on Tuesday, and he said that his hope is within 4 to 5 days, at least one, if not both of these mythical players that we keep talking about are across the line and on the way. And this is 3 days later now, so I guess we still wait. So this probably, to your earlier point, explains why there has not been more urgency or any official transaction that actually brings tangible help to Pablo. But what I'm going to ask you before we move on is, and I know you're kind of juggling a journalistic side of this to figure out exactly what's going on, and Andy Larson, the RSL fan, at the end of the day, do you think this could be really, really good news and maybe an infusion of attention, energy, and finances that the club hasn't had, even though we thought that they would have more under the Blitzer and Smith group?
I think we know, the Miller family was always reluctant to go into the luxury tax with the Jazz. Then they did at the end of the tenure, but only barely. And then, this was now the Smith group at that point, but then the Smith then sold Derek Favors to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and lost that draft pick that the Jazz are still trying to get back via tanking, right? I think the Millers have been really good business managers and really pretty responsible from a front office point of view. I would say that they, generally invest a high level of money into their franchises, but nothing that ever would break the bank, right? They've always been so worried about and responsible about making sure that they are in the black every year, right? And so, it would be kind of interesting to see how that would overlap with RSL and MLS, which is a very different style of, you're literally purchasing players rather than trading for them and so on. But, I think my expectation would be to see RSL kind of continue to be in the middle and maybe middle bottom of RSL of MLS teams in terms of ambition and payroll. It would be a little bit surprising to me to see the Miller family kind of buck their trends and all of a sudden, spend like the Atlantas and the LAs and the New Yorks of MLS, right? Like, that's just not what I associate the Miller family's financial policy to be.
Well, this is interesting because we're in a scenario now where if you're Kurt Schmidt, if you're Tony Beltran, if you're Jason Kreis, if you're the front office, if you're John Kimball, do you have the green light to go get players? Like, I don't even know what to make of this because where we find ourselves is, RSL media members who cover the team and fans who love the team is a team that's very much left lacking and wanting with talent. Do you think this delays the timeline, or do you think it expedites it as far as these players that we keep hearing about, yet nothing official is coming down?
My thought is that it probably limits the top end of what they spend, right? Like, and honestly, that's been pretty clear in the names that have been in the rumor mill, right? Like that the Tom Boger reported, like 34-year-old Raul Ruiz-Diaz, right? Like you just don't have to. He's a free agent. You don't have to spend a lot of money for him, and you're going to be spending 6 digits on that player, not in the millions. You look at Duncan McGuire from Orlando. You're not going to be spending $5 million on him. It means that if there is striker help coming, and presumably I do think that it's possible that still comes. You're talking about a free agent. You're talking about a 6-figure buying fee. You're talking, that kind of player rather than the designated player, a top-level designated player, a non-gamma or non-tammable designated player for the MLS cap nerds, rather than someone really expensive and really good.
Interesting. Speaking of nerds, Andy, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the news that Wes Wilcox has been hired by the Utah men's basketball program as their general manager. He is an analytics-driven nerd like you are, and I say that with love in my heart, and you know that. 39 years old, and he becomes the highest-ranking NBA official to take a college job. I wonder what you make of this, and the Alex Jensen hire as well. It does feel like maybe up there finally for the first time they're intent on rebuilding this basketball program.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost as impressive as the Alex Jensen hire to me. Like, to get someone with Wes's level of respect in kind of the basketball world and experience and resume, there's a reason it doesn't usually happen. Is it just is usually those guys stay in the NBA. I do think, like the Dallas Mavericks were a unique tire fire, the Sacramento Kings front office has always been tumultuous. And if you read the Athletic report from about a month ago, extremely more so now. I mean, it's pretty clear that Vivek Ranadive's daughter, Anjali, is playing a role in the front office. She was dating former NBA player Jeremy Lamb, who then all of a sudden had a role, but it seems like they may have broken up, and so that may not continue to be the case. It is messy. So it makes a little bit more sense to me that Wes Wilcox would leave that job to go to a better environment where he has more control and take this Utah job. Now, I doubt that he would do that without some significant room to work with NIL funding. And so if you're a Utah basketball fan, this to me is another sign that donors are stepping up, not only just to pay for Alex Jensen's salary, but probably for players to come in to really improve where this program stands in the Big 12.
Over to BYU. I know you did some work and you covered some BYU games and talked to Kevin Young and all that. So their season comes to a close last night in the Sweet 16, but year one under Kevin Young, Andy, they have proof of concept, and they've got a big-time recruit coming in next year in A.J. DeBanza. So your thoughts on what BYU was able to do year one under Kevin, and your thoughts on the proof of concept and what the future holds down in Provo?
Yeah, I think you have to say they overperformed. I mean, last night they ran into the best shooting performance in the NCAA tournament history, right? Like it's hard to even be too mad about what happened. And if anything, I would have been interested to see a game between the two teams in which BYU should have probably adjusted a little bit earlier in the first half, but then in the second half, I mean, Alabama was just making shots from 25 feet, and there's not a whole lot you can do with that in the college level. So. I think it's a impressive first season from them. Obviously, you've got AJ DeBonta coming. We'll see, if they can keep Richie Saunders, I do think Yegor Demon is just definitely leaving. But kind of no matter what, they should have a really nice team next year. And we'll see. I don't know if that ends up, depending. It could be bottom of the top 25, if you will, and kind of being a 4, 5, 6, 7 seed, like they were 6 seed this year. But there is a little bit of potential for them to be better than that, to be a top 10 team in the NCAA. And I don't think that they have the talents of the top 5 real blue bloods, but like AJ DeBonta is a really special player and can solve a lot of problems for them. So. If they're able to get spacing around him, if they're able to get some playmaking, if they're able to get some rim protection on defense, I think they're in a really, really solid competitive space and could compete in kind of the upper echelon in the Big 12. Maybe not win. I'm still taking some of the maybe better teams, but like second or third in the conference, I don't think is out of the potential reality for them. So Kevin Young's done an awesome job. Money does a lot of wonders here, and never before in college basketball, you can just buy a good team, and BYU's done that.
All right, you cover the Jazz for the Tribune, Andy, so I feel like I'm contractually obligated to ask you a Jazz question. Is there anything cool about the Jazz right now? I don't know. I really don't have anything to say.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's cool that there are 8 games left. I mean, yeah, we're in extreme. Okay, I'll say this. How about Will Hardy's rant at the team on Tuesday was.
I agree.
Was cool. Like that Will is willing to do. He's very kind of old school in that. Willingness to get on his players when they're not playing well, when he feels like they are not competing, in a way that a lot of young coaches and a lot of coaches of bad teams simply aren't. But it also doesn't feel like he's lost the locker room, like guys like Walker Kessler and Lowry and I would say some, but not all of the young guys really do still listen to him and respect that kind of approach. So, I think that's the good thing about the Jazz, but mostly we are definitely playing out the string here. They're trying to lose all of the remaining games in order to get and control that number one best lottery odds going into May 12th lottery.
All right, buddy. Well, unexpected breaking news. Good job of handling that. And let's keep track of how this goes down. Thanks for the time, Andy. We'll chat soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, Ben.
Andy Larson, Salt Lake Tribune. The breaking news randomly on a Friday afternoon is David Blitzer, apparently in talks now to sell Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals to the Miller family. So we'll keep you up to date on this as it goes down. We are going to do a little golf coming up with Paul Pugmire. We'll get back to this later on, 5 o'clock hour. I want to remind you that Love Volleyball is back with games on April the 4th and the 5th at the Bruins Arena. Tickets can be found at loveb.com. We're live today with our friends at Tim Daly Infinity at 4594 South State Street. Come on by and say hi. Enter to win Kevin Hart tickets and the GM, my college buddy, Koo Kim, back on the show on a Friday. What's up, Koo?
No, not much. I love being here. I love it when Spence is here. It's awesome.
It's
Feels good.
No, it's fun, man. And this is a really comfortable remote too, by the way, because you know what you're doing. It's a great facility. So let's talk about the customer experience, because we'll get to the nuts and bolts of the deals you have. But when people come out here and say hello and meet some of your salespeople, what can they expect as far as how you guys handle your customers?
One of the motivating factors for any salesperson that works here is, we're unbeknownst to most people, Infinity was actually the first luxury brand dealer from Japan that started before Lexus, before Acura. I don't know if people knew that or not, but I remember growing up in the 90s thinking that these Infinities were like the coolest cars around. And with this new 80 coming out, it's actually rebranded the brand, in my opinion, right? But as far as salespeople are concerned, you when a customer walks in, they kind of get the sense that they're new, and a lot of these salespeople are new, but that's an advantage that customers can take. One of the other things I've thought about as well is once a year I have a career night for young men and young women in our neighborhood.
Nice.
And one of the leaders asked me, they said, hey, is it a real thing when new car manufacturers are selling cars, they have to hit a certain quota? It is. It is a real thing. We're 2 units away from selling QX80s to get a reimbursement back from the manufacturer in the amount of $4,000 or $40,000. So
Okay.
it is a real thing. I mean, people don't think it's a real thing, but we're 2 units away. So it is a real thing. We're willing to give these away by the end of the month. So I don't know if that answered your question or not. But.
No, it's cool. I mean, because you've got really nice people. Every time I come here, they approach you respectfully.
Yeah.
You don't feel pressured. Like,
Yeah.
I think when people think of the car buying experience, they just think of like the slick back used car,
Right.
salesman that's going to try to screw you over, and it doesn't feel like that's how you guys roll out here.
Well, one of the biggest things too is I try to teach our sales guys to develop pattern interruptions. I try to not to have them say things like, "Hey, how can I help you?" Because every customer is groomed to have the same answer. We're just looking, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of have them go above and beyond because I take it from that old movie Air Force One with Harrison Ford. You remember that movie?
Sure, of course, yeah.
There's one where I think one of his advisors said, "Hey, Mr. President, when so-and-so goes on the air and they ask you questions about this guy, just try to distance yourself from him. Don't talk about your relationship with him." And Harrison Ford says, "I'm going to tell him how good of a friends we are." He went above and beyond the relationship, right? So customer walks in. I have my customers or my sales guys say things like, "Hey, it's about time you made it to Tyndale Infinity, right?" It's a pattern interruption, so you get a more real conversation with the customer. "Hey, are you here to buy 1 or 2 cars today?" "Oh, we're just looking at one." So you are ready to buy a car today, right?
Oh.
But it also makes it more of a pleasurable buying experience because nobody wants to go through the rigmarole of, "Hey, how can I help you?" "Oh, we're just looking," right? I wouldn't even want to do that. So
Yeah.
I try to make it to be more personable and more one-on-one, more tailored to the customer instead of just the, "Dude, I don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. So I'm just looking." I want it to be more of a real conversation so we can dive into the real reasons why they're looking for a car or why they want to get out of the other car that they're in, right? And, when you do that, it just opens up more of a real conversation so you know why they're really wanting to buy a car.
All right, but before I say you lose for this hit, we got to hit on the forever warranty because every time I'm out here, whether it's this facility or the other 3 I've been to over the past couple of months, it does feel like this is one of the things that really sets you guys apart. So tell us about the forever warranty for listeners that might be interested in buying a car. What exactly is that?
It's the real deal, something that Tim rolled out a couple years ago. Basically, any car, any new car, any domestic vehicle that's 2019 or newer, less than 65,000 miles, gets the forever warranty, and it is a real thing. Forever powertrain coverage.
There you go. All right, we're going to chat again, okay,
All
Koo?
right, thanks.
So come on by and say what's up. Koo has a bunch of vehicles priced to move, including the QX80s, which are beautiful SUVs. The forever warranty is something that makes Tim Daly unique. So come on by, ask some questions. They've got really nice salespeople getting you into vehicles, whether it's for you, your spouse, your kid. They've got a bunch of vehicles priced to move. We're giving away Kevin Hart tickets as well. These things are expensive, okay? So all you have to do is come on by, 4594 South State Street, enter to win, and we're going to draw a name before we get out of here coming up at 6 o'clock to see Kevin Hart as he rolls into Salt Lake coming up on April the 18th. All right, the world of professional golf really has their eyes at the Masters coming up in just a couple of weeks, but there is a tournament going on right now. It has been delayed via weather, but Paul Pugmire stops by coming up next to talk about a little golf on a Friday drive right here on ESPN 700. All right, we'll get back to the, quite frankly, unexpected breaking news of the day today. Coming up just a little bit later, as Sportico is reporting, Dave Blitzer is in talks with the Miller family to sell Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals. Don't know what this means for the stake of Ryan Smith. Don't know what this means for the future of the club. Don't even know if it's actually going down. It just was reported by Sportico about 2 hours ago. We'll get back to that coming up in a bit, but let's talk a little golf. Paul Pugmire, Friday afternoon. Happy Friday, Paul. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Spencer. Nice to talk to you.
Thanks for the time. I've got to say, I played my first Bonneville 18-hole round on Thursday morning, and Paul, I decided not to think, and I could not have struck it better. I don't know if there's a lesson there.
Nice. Well, it means that your natural athleticism combined with the preparation that you have put into learning the swing here in the last couple of years, you're out of the way of it, and you're letting it happen.
I need you to hop on more. You make me feel good about myself. I appreciate that. But I will say I didn't make one putt, and the short game still has. Is that the last thing to come back when you've taken months off, the short game and actually being able to make putts?
Yeah, the short game is the last thing to come back because it's most precise. And putting is a different kind of action, related, but a different kind of action, so it comes back in its own way. But the short game, chip shots, pitch shots, they mimic a full swing. And, you can have let's say, a 2% margin of error in a full swing, and you hardly notice it. It's a good shot. You have a 2% margin of error on a short little chip, and you think, well, that smelled. And but really, the difference on them may not be that much.
All right, Paul, before we get to I actually want to talk Masters because I'm giddy, but we're not going to do that right now. Tell me about the Houston Open. I think Scotty won this a year ago, and ho-hum, our guy just shot a 62 today. The Texas Children's Houston Open. Jaeger won it last year. I think Scotty may have won it a couple of years ago. But tell us about this tournament that's going on right now before we talk about Augusta.
Yeah, and Jaeger beat Scotty by one shot. So Scotty was in the mix right up to the very end last year, and that might be what you remember. Houston Open is one of those old-school Texas tournaments. There are 3 or 4 of them that have been around on the PGA Tour for decades, and it's got a deep, rich history that includes Tony Finau. Tony won it 4 years ago, something like that, and Tony always has done real well in Houston. They only recently have moved the tournament to Memorial Park, which is a City of Houston muni. It is one of the best public courses in the nation, and it's a big boy course by every measure. Things are bigger in Texas, right? That's what they want us to say. Well, Memorial Park fits the bill. It's a big test, but a municipal course. Anybody can go play it, which is really, really cool.
And Tony, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and right now it's playing soft because it's getting rain, and so you see Scheffler go out and shoot nothing today, in large part because it's a little soft.
Oh, I see. So they're through. Well, most golfers are through 2 rounds. Am I seeing the play has been suspended? Is that what's going on right now?
Yeah, and I don't want I don't want to downplay the brilliance of Scotty's round today. It was exactly that. It was brilliant. My favorite part of it is that he tied the course record, and you guess who he tied? He tied himself. So he has the 2 lowest rounds ever on that course. But the fact that the course is playing soft has made it more susceptible to the way these guys play.
So what I was going to say is they're through, most golfers through 2 rounds. Some golfers that were out on the course, and they had to come back in after it was suspended. But Tony's through 2 rounds, and he's 5 under par after carding at 65 today, which is good for T12. Now, you and I have talked throughout the course of the year. At some point, Scotty's going to look like Scotty, and when he does, he might just run away from everybody because he did it so often last year. So this might be the weekend that we see Scotty do Scotty things. But what do you make of where Tony's put himself at through 2 rounds?
I love where Tony's put himself, and if anything, I am much more surprised that yesterday was kind of pedestrian than I would be ever surprised at all that he shoots 65 on this course. This course sets up real well for him. Tony has said a couple of times that he thinks this is a very good Masters preparation because it's big, it's long, it is fairly generous with the driver off the tee. That is to say, the driving areas, the landing areas, and runouts are pretty receptive, and the green complexes are really good. And nobody will ever achieve at a green complex what they've got at Augusta. Those are the best in the world, but it is good preparation for Augusta. And so Tony builds his schedule around the elevated events in the Masters. This is neither, or I meant to say in the majors, and this is neither, but it is a good preparation. He says he likes the town. He very clearly has a good history on this course. So you can normally count on Tony showing up in Houston this week, and today he showed why.
Rory, which, we talked about the topic last week of this being potentially the year of Rory, and it still could be, but he carded a 70 through round one. It looks like he did not get out prior to the weather, kind of knocking everybody out, which is tied for 68th. What do you make of the struggles, I guess, or is this much ado about nothing because it's only one round of golf?
One round of golf.
Okay.
No, Rory's still in fine shape, and you're right. He didn't even get to peg it yet today. So we'll have to see how the tournament organizers work that out. But Rory was through 7 holes. I read that wrong. Rory's through 7 today, but look, he didn't knock himself out of it. He shot 70 yesterday. Tony shot 70 yesterday as well, and now Tony's T12. Rory has work to do, but he can do it.
So, since you and I last spoke, and it's funny just how this game is, because I think last week I asked you, what's going on with Victor Hovland? What's his deal? Like, why isn't he good? And then he just goes out and wins the Valspar, It's just funny how one tournament can flip the narrative back on somebody's side, because I think I heard Victor interviewed afterwards, and prior to the interview, I don't know if one of the golf commentators said he's already changed coaches like 3 times this year. Or something like that, trying to figure out, what he has to do to get it back. But he wins the Valspar. I want to ask you about that. And then could this be the year that Justin Thomas kind of recaptures the glory that we haven't seen him play with over the past, 2-3 seasons based off his runner-up at Valspar?
Yeah, absolutely. Really interesting questions. First of all, Hovland is a tinkerer. He is a guy who likes to be under the hood, spinning a wrench on his golf swing. And, there are a few who famously have done that. Obviously, Tiger Woods, who comes off of some of the best golf in the history of the game and then wants to retool. Ben Hogan was a mechanic, and he built one of the greatest careers and one of the greatest swings ever. Some people are not. Nicklaus never was. Ballesteros never was. It's kind of a personal preference kind of thing, but Hovland very definitely is a guy who tinkers with his golf swing. Now, when you are that kind of person, occasionally you're going to be trying something that doesn't work, but you're going to find stuff that does work too. One thing that you have to really respect, I think, for any world-class, top-level athlete in any sport, your body changes over time. It moves differently. Your muscles are different. You have good days mentally and bad days mentally. This really shows up in golf because there's no teammate to cover a mistake. But it for the tinkerers, they are always just more comfortable trying to figure out whatever's changing for them that day, and that's who Victor Hovland is. Now, in terms of JT, his superpower has always been going low. He has been one who can just go lights out and go stupid low any given day. And I think when he shot the 62 at TPC Sawgrass in the second round of the Players, that indicated that he's getting his mojo back and he's finding his feet. because that's JT being JT.
Yeah, I mean, you cheer for the kid because, pretty gutted to not even see him make the playoffs. What was it, 2 seasons ago? And man, it's just it's wild, like the swings of this game and this tour, specifically the PGA Tour, where like even Jordan Spieth, and I'm just reminded of this because the other day I just was kind of getting some work done in the background. I had the first episode of season 1 of Full Swing when they feature Spieth and they feature JT. And I think because it's been basically a decade, we forget that, and I know that I'm not supposed to say like the next Tiger or whatever that is supposed to look like, but there was a minute where, Tiger was getting a little bit older, then Spieth won multiple majors, and we're like, wait, maybe this is the guy that's going to carry the mantle. And it's been a while since Jordan looked like Jordan did back in 2014, 2015, huh, Paul?
Yeah, it really has. Jordan Spieth has had surgery. That always is. It's a variable. The methods for diagnosis, for treatment, and for recovery are all so much better than they ever have been. But it's a big variable. And in a sport like this, or any top level sport, where you're dealing with such narrow, such teeny little margins, you just don't know how it's going to work out. I think Jordan has had a real hard time coming back from that. This whole idea of saying somebody's going to be the next Tiger, I always cringe when I hear that, because talk about putting an expectation, if you go that far, but even the pretense of something that cannot be done. Putting that on someone is just so totally unfair, and I just hate it when I hear that.
Well, and ultimately, my point is, Paul, you're just one tournament away from being that guy again. You know what I mean? Like you're one weekend, and I honestly don't think I fully appreciated this before I really started studying the game and watching the tour, where the narrative on the Golf Channel or on social media is Victor Hovland has lost it and he'll never get it again. And the narrative is Justin Thomas didn't make the FedEx, playoffs and he'll never be back again. You're just one tournament and one weekend away. Like if Jordan goes to Augusta next weekend and wins it, we just talk about him like he's once again one of the best players in the world. Like I know right now, Paul, it's Scotty and everybody else, but it truly, with this sport, I think the most amazing and maddening thing about it is you are one weekend away from recapturing the narrative and changing the way people view you as a golfer.
Yeah, that is true, and it's a really interesting observation and an interesting phenomenon to think about and to observe over time. And Hovland last week is a great example of that. He was missing cuts, and he was not looking good, and then he found his feet, and he goes into the Valspar and wins the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an interesting thing to watch.
Okay, before we get to what you have coming up on the show tomorrow, Vegas favorites to win the Masters. Of course, it's Scotty, and my guess is after this weekend, if he continues to do Scotty things, the odds will even be shorter. But I'll just read you just a couple of names. So Scotty's the favorite, then it's Rory, then it's Xander, and then it's John Rahm, and then it's Ludwig Oberg. Bryson is right behind him. Then it's Morikawa, Hovland, Koepka, Cam Smith. We'll just stop there. Those are your top 10. So is there – I know you might just say Scotty, and that's probably the right answer. But out of the favorites, who do you think we should be looking out for? And are there some names that you did not hear on that list that you think will perform well and maybe win at Augusta next weekend?
I like to look into the data. I like what numbers can tell us. I like to be able to measure things. And so out of that, the list of people that Vegas is liking, Colin Morikawa, Rory McIlroy, and Scotty Scheffler statistically fit the match of what the 10 of the most recent 12 Masters winners have been, which is to say that in the 3 months leading up to the Masters, this is a state of their game measure, that players who have been averaging 1.7 strokes gained tee to green in the 3 months leading up to the Masters, they win. And right now, there's only 5 players who meet that threshold in that profile. Morikawa, Rory, Scheffler, you mentioned those, but Joaquin Niemann and Shane Lowry. And those are the players. They're the answer to the second half of your question, that players with that statistical profile, and it is because Augusta National, the putting gets a lot of the attention, but holy cow, it is the second shot that defines the winner of the Masters every year. And the second shot is set up by the drive. And so it is the player who plays best tee to green who will win the thing. And then there are 2 other measures you can always count on looking at. And that is that it is very rare, like 1 out of 25 kind of rare, that a player will win the Masters not being in the top 30 of the world golf rankings. Now, that's a little screwed up because the world golf rankings have been so screwed up. But the basic concept, and you can go to Data Golf, use that instead of world's golf rankings. So say the top 30 of Data Golf, that will capture every tour, including Live. Then the other thing is a double bogey over the course of the week. Last 30 years, only 2 players have won having made a double bogey in the 72 holes. Augusta is just so demanding, so unforgiving. If you have to make up 2 shots, if you have to use 2 holes to get back to where you started, probably not going to happen for you.
Is it really only like $2 for one of those cheese sandwiches or whatever they sell there?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's an amazing thing, right?
Oh, that's wild.
It's good food, and it's pretty dang cheap.
All right, man. Hey, tell our listeners what's coming up on the show tomorrow before I say you loose.
Sure. We're going to be talking about the University of Utah Utes again. They just continue to do remarkable things. They won again this last week. We're going to be talking with Kurt Bernheisel, who has pulled off a really crazy good series of wins in the Winter Champ. He's age group won 5 out of the last 7 years, which is pretty amazing. And then we also are going to be teeing up when the Epson Tour comes to town here or not to town, to the state, to Copper Rock down in Hurricane, coming here in just a few weeks.
All right, my friend, I always appreciate the time. Have a great show tomorrow, and we'll chat next week to get ready for Augusta. Should be fun, Paul.
Can't wait. Thanks, Spence.
Live today, Tim Dahle Infinity, 4594 South State Street, 4594 South State Street. We are giving away Kevin Hart tickets. You have to enter to win, though. Okay, that's the deal. Come on by. You just fill out a quick little enter to win sheet, put it in the box, and we're going to draw a name when we get out of here, which is just under 2 hours from right now. Koo Kim, general manager, stops by once again. Have you ever been to a PGA Tour event before?
No, I actually haven't. One of the only things I've really been to that surprises most people is a NASCAR event.
Oh, you went and saw a NASCAR race?
Yeah,
when
I was a little kid. I think it was either I want to say it was in Dallas. Does that sound right?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
It could be in Dallas.
Or
yeah.
no, I think it was in Florida.
Definitely in Florida.
Yeah, I think it was when I was really young.
I think there's one every weekend in Florida.
Yeah, it was one of the weirdest things that my dad wanted to take me to, and I thought, oh, this is cool.
There you go. Well, that's an easy transition, NASCAR to cars, right? We're out here at Tim Dahle Infinity, 4594 South State Street. So we talked about kind of the process that people go through, come in and they meet your salespeople. Let's talk about financing options, because I'm sure a lot of people like the QX80s. It's a nice car. I mean, it's a luxury automobile. And so for people that might be concerned about their budget, what sort of financing options do you have available?
We have 1.9% right now, but the biggest thing that I want to reiterate is that when you come in here, the sales managers aren't afraid to talk to any of the customers. So you can ask for Koo or Lucas or Isaac. All of us are willing to help you.
Okay.
Because, with this being a Highline luxury car, a lot of the customers, they just want to cut to the chase and be in and out. We'll make it easy for every single one of them. I promise them that. But the rates are going to be highly competitive. They're better than the ones with the Escalades, better than the ones with the Navigators, and better than Mercedes and BMW right now.
And it's on the same level of those luxury SUVs. I mean, every time I pass an Infiniti QX80, at first glance, I'm like, that's like a Range Rover or something, you know?
I mean, if you're looking for a larger SUV, do yourself a service and just drive it. We're not asking you to buy it and come in here, and we're not going to harass you. We just want you to drive the car. Just drive the car. You'll realize how much you'll be surprised at the quality of the vehicle.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful, and you see them all over the streets these days. Let's get into what folks might not know about how the tariffs could benefit them if they're looking to trade in their vehicle.
Right. So right now, the big talk on social media is you get all these, I guess, car salesmen or even dealerships that are promoting, hey, buy this car before the tariffs hit. Buy this car before the tariffs hit. But there is a silver lining, and that is you get more money for the trade-ins right now. Because right now at the auctions, the values of those cars have gone up considerably, anticipating that the hit's going to take, I guess, be foreseen in, or I guess, realized in April.
Mm-hmm.
But the auction's already adjusted for that. So that's the advantage if you trade in a car right now.
And of course, forever warranty. I know we hit it every segment, but it is a separator. It does make you guys unique. So let's talk about that.
Well, you get a free powertrain coverage for the life of the vehicle, right? Any vehicle that qualifies, but it is a real thing. We've paid a ton of money to actually take care of customers that have their engines blown, their transmissions go out, right? So it's something that we discussed at the beginning of the year, whether or not we wanted to continue going on and going forward. We decided to keep it going forward. So it's an awesome thing to have, especially when you buy a new car and you want that peace of mind, or even a used car and you want that peace of mind. You get that with the purchase here at Tim Daly.
Good stuff, buddy. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank
We'll
you.
chat again.
All
All right.
right.
Koo Kim, he's the GM out here. Again, you can ask for him. He'll help you himself because these are really, really nice cars, man. The QX80s are beautiful vehicles. And we are giving away Kevin Hart tickets just for stopping in and saying hello. You just got to fill out this little sheet here, then put it in the box, the giveaway box, and we'll draw a name. And we'll send you to see Kevin Hart when he rolls into Salt Lake coming up on April the 18th. So come on by at 4594 South State Street. It is Tim Daly Infinity. All right, we got 2 hours down. We got 2 hours to go. Coming up next, the Utah men's basketball team is actually preparing for a game. You guys may have forgotten. It's the College Basketball Crown coming up next week. We are taking our show on the road to Las Vegas for Utah's Monday matchup. So we'll catch up with their interim head coach, Josh Eilert. Then move over to Larry Fulmer, friend of the program, the Fulmer Legacy Center. Of course, Gene Fulmer, one of the most accomplished professional athletes in the history of our state, a great, great champion boxer. We'll bring in Larry and a very special guest to tell you about that stuff. Then we'll get back to the breaking news of the day today, which is David Blitzer in talks to sell Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals to the Miller family. We'll talk about that during the 5 o'clock hour of the drive on a Friday afternoon. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, program rolling along. The interim head coach of the University of Utah is good enough to give us some time in studio. Josh Eilert. Coach, how you doing? Thanks for the time.
Doing great.
I appreciate you hopping in. Beautiful day and crazy, crazy time for you. You and I have never met before, so just for a little context, I'm a college basketball junkie. So I'm going to ask you right off the top, what's Bob Huggins like? I got to know. That's my first question.
How much time do you got?
I've got as much time as you'll give me. I do this for 4 hours every day, Coach.
I'll tell you what he was. The probably the greatest on-court motivator that I've ever been around. I mean, he could get a guy to run through a wall and do so with a smile on his face. So, he's I learned a lot from him, in good and bad. How to operate, and certainly we didn't see eye to eye on everything, but I had his back for 16 years and then kind of picked up the pieces from there.
Well, and the reason I ask is I was a student at the U in the 90s, and I attempted to walk on and play for Rick. It lasted about a month and a half because Andre Miller was the starting point guard. I said, I'm not like that guy, right? And, I loved those teams, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Majerus. And Coach Huggins kind of strikes me as a similar type figure where the basketball brilliance may have been overshadowed by some of the personality traits. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. He started from the ground up.
Yeah, he did.
He started at Walsh College, went on to Akron, and just kept on moving his way up the ladder in terms of the college basketball scene. So he had a heck of a career, and I was a part of a lot of wins with him, and even our staff, our staff that we were together, it was pretty much the same staff for more than a decade. So a lot of those relationships over the course of my career will last a lifetime, between Frank Martin, Brad Underwood. Both those guys were on that K-State staff that I was a GA on when I first joined Coach Huggins' staff. So those guys, Eric Martin over at South Carolina State had a really good year that we worked together for over a decade, and Jared Calhoun up the road at Utah State. He was the ops guy when I was a video guy when we first got to West Virginia. So got a lot of connections, and we're all kind of part of that tree.
So one more thing here, and truly I could do this with you for an hour. I've got 10 Bob Huggins questions I want to ask you, but we won't take that much time. But I want to separate Coach Huggins, the personality, and just ask you about Coach Huggins, the basketball mind. Like schematically, he was a coach that believed in defense and pressure, but what did you learn from him just straight as a basketball coach?
I mean, the biggest thing with Bob Huggins, especially when we were really good, twofold. It was kind of the Press Virginia days are the first ones that came to mind when you talk about Bob Huggins and when he really put a stamp on that West Virginia program. When we went to the Final Four in the third year we were there, we weren't that type of team. So he kind of coaches to his personnel, and he did a really good job over the years to do that. Joe Mazzulla was our point guard at West Virginia the first 3 years. So he had that toughness, that tenacity that really fit Bob Huggins' style of play. And, it was kind of oil and water from time to time and day to day. But it really, at the end of the day, that those two kind of married themselves and really put that stamp of defense on that floor. And when you look at the Press Virginia days and those days with Javon Carter and Daxter Miles and Tariq Phillips, some of those guys just had such a hard edge in terms of how they played the game, and they really fit that. And we kind of recruited to that point and built those programs, and we had the shot blocker with Sagabal Kanate, cleaning everything up on the backside. So those guards could be really, really aggressive defensively, and if they got beat, you had one of the best shot blockers in the country at the rim to clean things up.
Did you see anything from Joe that would indicate he would go on to be a great head coach?
No, I remember when he kind of got out of the game, and Joe and I had a really good relationship. I remember, Synergy Sports Technologies was one of the first, analytical programs, or so to speak, out there. And I remember him reaching out and just trying to, he's like, Coach Eilert, would you, share your login? I want to really kind of study the game. And he had that, more so than a lot of kids these days, he had that hunger to just watch film and study film. Mm-hmm. And you saw that as a player. I remember sitting in, as a video coordinator, and he's our point guard, and sometimes he was our backup point guard, but regardless, he's going in to see me to study his opponent. And some of the things he would see that I wouldn't see, like when we started looking at the tendencies, like he would pick something up every time. It's like, I can take advantage of that. So he had that mind from day one. I never knew, like, that's where he wanted to go with his career. But certainly, he's continued to do that, and he's different than a lot of guys you'll see out there.
We just broke some news on the show. Without Coach Eilert's login info for Synergy, Joe Mazzulla is not coach of the Boston Celtics. I think that's fair to say.
Not listening, but I shared that login with him.
Hey, tell me the origin story, as you just referenced with Coach Calhoun, Coach Martin. I mean, and I have a tremendous respect for coaches. My mom always used to say when I'd go to a coach's dinner, hug your coach's wife, because of how much you guys go through. So I get the grind and I respect the fraternity. What's the origin story with you and Craig and how you landed in Salt Lake?
I was enjoying life. I had a little bit more anxiety last year at this time than I do this year in terms of the transition, because I'd never been through that process before.
17 years,
17
right?
years, and I started as a GA for Coach Huggins. I went to West Virginia, newly married without any kids. We kind of take a leap of faith and take a $30,000 job as a video coordinator in 07. A video coordinator to director of ops to interim assistant coach to associate AD so I just every role up the ladder I played every one of those roles in 17 years. Last year, a 10-month contract, it didn't really work out the way we thought it would. Really tried to build a roster late in summer and so we kind of behind the 8 ball and trying to compete in the Big 12. So it didn't work out great, but then I started, like, let me just enjoy some of this. And I started having conversations with some coaches, a couple other Big 12 coaches. My agent got me in touch with Coach Smith, and it was a slow process. I think Coach Smith does a really good job of doing his due diligence on who he brings into programs. And you can see with the character of guys that he has in this program, the character of people he has in this program. He took his time on me because we didn't know each other. We had never met.
Interesting, okay.
And so it was just about, one phone call every 3 or 4 days for about 5 weeks. And just one random call. He said, "You ready to go? Ready to do this?" And this is, I think, two days before our summer workouts began in mid-June. And I was like, at that point, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it was kind of crazy to me that he never brought me out. It was all based on phone conversations, and we'd never been face-to-face. I'd never been to Salt Lake before other than flying through in a layover. But I was like, leap of faith, let's do this. And I felt good about it, and my family and I just jumped at the opportunity, and we headed this way.
There's a personal side of this business that I don't think we do a good enough job of acknowledging. And I'm familiar with it because my father was in sports. He wasn't a coach, but we moved, 6 or 7 times because of his career. And you moved out here, with your wife, 3 children, correct?
Yes.
And obviously, Craig has been let go. I don't know what that means for your future. I'm wondering if you do, Coach, if I could ask you if you know what's next after the year.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. And I'm totally at peace with that, especially at this point in my career. Like I said, last year at this time, I was going through it for the first time in my career and not knowing what's next. And I put a lot of anxiety around that whole scenario, and I tried not to because I wanted to have faith that things would work out, and they did. And here I am in a situation, and I really don't want to think too much about that because we have so much going on right now in terms of we still have a job to do.
Yeah.
And I'm the leader of this program, and I've been trying to the way I handle things, I want our staff to handle things the same way. Everybody's assessing your value at this time, and that goes from the bottom guy on the roster to everybody on the staff. We're fighting through this adversity. Let's see how we handle it, and someone's always watching and assessing your value, and no better opportunity to show who you are and showcase who you are is to handle these things the appropriate way, and I think we've done so.
I will follow up because and I'm sure you listen to the show, so thank you. I talk often and have for the past few weeks about you as a candidate for Alex's staff. Basically 2 decades, if not more, in the Big 12. You're also a big, strong dude. You want somebody to have your back. If you're walking into a gym, obviously, that's not the number one thing, but, you want people to respect instantly what you do. And You have the resume, you have the pedigree, and I'll ask whether or not you've had conversations with Alex about coaching with him.
Well, when I saw you said big, strong dude, I looked up to Alex when I saw him for the first time.
Yeah, but
so.
I've known AJ for years. He's out of shape. You look like you still play. Alex couldn't get up and down the floor twice.
No, we've worked together really well through this transition. He's doing right by the people in Dallas and trying to kind of manage both situations at the same time. And I think I've been a big help to him by taking on the role here as an interim head coach and keeping everybody together and keeping everybody locked in. But I haven't had those conversations with him. I haven't forced those conversations. He hasn't forced those conversations. And I've told several guys on our staff, you want these things to happen organically. None of it can be forced. If you're going to force yourself upon someone, it's likely not going to work anyway. So as we kind of feel each other out and we work together through this process, if it's right for him, if it's beneficial for him, and he sees a lot of value in me and I see a lot of value in him, and it's mutual, then we'll look at that. But right now we're not to that point yet.
For sure. Now take me through the process, if you would, about deciding to play in the college basketball crown, because I had wondered whether or not you'd get a postseason invite, and then when it came, I'd wondered whether or not you would accept it. And as you referenced, players are playing for coaches. The transfer portal means it's free agency, call it whatever it is. Coaches are playing for jobs. So I understand the desire to showcase the talent, but what was the process that you guys went through before deciding to play in the tournament?
Well, the opportunity was presented prior to even going to Kansas City. So that invite had already, came across the desk of the administrators, and they presented it to me and kind of got my feedback as to what my thought process was. I mean, certainly we weren't out of the question of getting an automatic bid, and if we can get hot in Kansas City, so you didn't really want to you had to be careful on how you presented that to the team, but that was out there on the table, and it's new and it's exciting. You think about all the other postseason tournaments, and I know that I've been a part of. I've been in the NIT twice and to the CBI once, and trust me, there's no motivation whatsoever to play in those things. And sometimes you say the NIT, like we were talking about earlier today, if you win a couple games, and back in the day, the big reward was to go to New York City and play in New York City if you got to the Final Four. And now it's Indianapolis. So if you throw all that into and you start weighing these things, now you look at the NIT as kind of, in my mind, I see it as lesser of a tournament than what this Crown tournament is. You go to Vegas. I know the timeline is a little strange in terms of waiting 3 weeks to play in it, but they're all on national TV. They're all broadcast by Fox or FS1. It's all in Vegas. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Vegas?
Sure.
So
I'm pushing to get down there.
So you got a week in Vegas, and then at the end of it, which is new to everybody, the NIL piece. If you win a couple games, you're automatically in the money, and you win the whole thing, is $300,000. So there's a lot more motivating factors to it. And the way we've handled it through this coaching changes, through the coaching change, is all these things can happen at the same time. You can be in the portal, you can still represent University of Utah, you can still play in the Crown tournament, and all these things can happen at the same time. And I think that's what's going to happen moving forward with some of these other schools, to keep everybody, give them the right opportunity to assess their value, but also compete and play in the tournament.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is a lot of these schools are big brands that are just down a little bit. You guys, Butler, I mean, there's some really good brands in the tournament. Before I set you loose, you kind of alluded to this. At last check, there are 5 players in the transfer portal. And as you kind of alluded to, you can be in the transfer portal and still play and practice. Are you going down to Vegas, I didn't even mean to do this, with a full deck at your disposal?
For the most part, we are, yeah. I think we're pretty much full strength. Caleb Lohner is looking at his NFL potential, and like I said earlier, I want to do right by everybody.
Sure.
I'm not forcing anybody to play in this, but if his value moving forward is NFL, that's something he needs to pursue. Mason Madsen had some issues with his shoulder all year, and he had surgery on that and got things cleaned up there, so he won't be participating with us. But for the most part, as we look at it right now, we're as full strength as probably anybody's walking into that tournament. Now, will there be 5 or 6 guys in the portal? Yes, and there's no reason why they can't play and be in the portal and assessing their value while we do so. And to be honest with you, the portal's never really closed.
Right.
I mean, there's agents that talk to coaches. There's coaches that talk to agents. There's all this stuff going on behind the scenes that you're never going to stop. So you might as well just allow them to be in the portal and have legitimate conversations with coaches, especially through a coaching change. You don't want to lose the trust of guys, and so they should be able to, make the decision in the best interest of themselves through the process.
Well, I really appreciate the time. Utah basketball means a lot to me, so I respect, the work that you put in during a very difficult transition. Best of luck in Vegas, Coach, and best of luck with whatever's next.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Josh Eilert, appreciate Josh's time. Don't forget the College Basketball Crown will start on Monday, and our show will be live from Las Vegas following the completion of the game. It starts at 1 o'clock, and then we'll get our show going right after that's done. Josh Eilert stops by today, courtesy of our friends at Burt Brothers, which is a one-stop shop for reliable repairs and maintenance, from tires and alignments to fluids and brakes. A full range of automotive services tailored to meet your needs. Now offering value tire options, such as Americas and Summit tires, with tires starting at just $69. Burt Brothers, doing it better since day one. All right, live on site. Have been all day. Will continue to be for a little while with our friends at Tim Daly Infinity at 4594 South State Street, where we're giving away 2 tickets to see Kevin Hart, who's rolling into Salt Lake on April the 18th. So stop by, enter to win. We're gonna draw a name prior to us leaving at 6 o'clock, and the general manager, once again, Koo Kim, stops by on a Friday.
Glad to be here.
Happy Friday, man.
Thank you.
Is the morale better at work on Fridays?
It's surprising because if I was in my 20s, I'd hate to work on weekends, but these guys love it. I mean, it's a lifestyle. They get adrenaline rushing when they're selling a car, and we're pumped for them because, it's tough to get the college-educated guys that are selling cars, but man, if you can get these guys motivated and realize how much money they can make without a degree and seeing how their life can change in it, that's where it's really promising.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's reset the customer service experience that sets you guys apart, that makes you different, like your ethos, how you want your customers to be treated.
Well, one of the things that they have here that Infinity implements, they have valet service. Anytime you get your car serviced in our service center, they can drop off a car, pick up a car wherever you want. It's valet service that they do, and it's all through Infinity. It's nothing that's charged to the customer. In fact, we get reimbursed from Infinity every time we drop off and pick up the vehicle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's very, very cool.
And with us being the only Infinity dealership in Utah, we actually go all the way out to Montana, Idaho, surrounding areas just to pick up and deliver cars just for service. Even an oil change will do it.
Okay. And there are a few things, Koo, that make you guys different, namely the forever warranty.
Forever warranty.
Okay, so it is literally what it sounds like, but
right.
Kind of fill us in, to fill in the details there.
Any vehicle that qualifies, 19 or newer, less than 65,000 miles, you get the forever warranty. The powertrain's covered for life, right? But the biggest thing that I want to leave here with is that the tariffs may hopefully it's a motivating factor for anybody that's looking at a car, right? So that they don't have to pay a tariff on it when the new vehicles do come in. But at the same time, the silver lining is you do get more money on your trade-in.
More money on the trade-in. So if you have a vehicle right now, you've been considering trading in to get a new one, right now is a great time to do it.
Yes, but even for customers that were looking last week, because the auctions have adjusted and those values have gone up.
So let's talk about these beautiful QX80s next to me. It is, first of all, are these more popular than they used to be? I feel like I see them a lot now.
I think the old 80s, I think they were around for about 15 years, but with the new redesign, they have been really, really popular. In fact, we've had 2 brand new, let's say 2024 Lexus LX 600s, I think is what they are. They were both traded in for QX80. And they only had like 12,000 miles on them each.
Okay.
So we have a lot of detractors from Lexus and Toyota and BMW and Mercedes and Lincoln and Cadillac, but they're all coming here to check out the QX80s.
Before I set you loose, financing options for folks because these are nice cars, right?
Yeah.
And, maybe some people are like, I don't know if it's in the budget, but you guys have good financing options today.
Right. The biggest thing that actually surprises me when a customer walks in and they have 20 grand in credit card debt, but they want to put 20 grand down to buy one of these cars, I have to convince them. I say, keep the money, pay off your credit card. You're borrowing this at 1.9%.
Yeah.
Or 2.9%, whatever it may be. But it just surprises me that people want to put money down to lower their payment when they should actually just pay off their credit cards. It's crazy when I see that. No,
and you'll walk them through what makes sense for them.
It's funny. Well, the other thing too is people feel like, why are you telling me this? Why were you? What's your motivating factor in this? And in my mind, I'm just thinking it makes more sense for you to pay off your credit card than it is to put money down on this car. So,
Well, your credit card's probably, 22% or whatever it is?
if you're lucky, yeah.
I know, right? All right, man. Great to see you. We'll chat again.
Hey, all right, thanks.
All right, Koo Kim, the general manager out here. We're live today at Tyndall Infinity at 4594 South State Street. Come on by and say hi. Enter to win Kevin Hart tickets. We're going to draw a name right before we get out of here, coming up at 6 o'clock. We're tracking the big story of the day today, the breaking news of the day today, that according to Sportico, Dave Blitzer's in conversations with the Miller family to sell Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals to them. We'll get back to that in the 5 o'clock hour coming up. But on the other side, a good friend of the show and one of the nicest guys around. So Larry Fulmer, you guys have heard the name Gene Fulmer, one of the most accomplished athletes in the history of our state. Well, the Fulmer Legacy Center has been completed, a labor of love for Larry and his staff. So we're going to tell you about it coming up on the other side. Then we'll get into the 5 o'clock hour of the program on a Friday afternoon. It's great to have you with us. Happy Friday to you. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, show rolling along today. Excited to do this. Good friend of the show. Let's welcome in live in studio our guy Larry Fulmer on a Friday afternoon. Larry, happy Friday, sir. How are you?
Hey, thank you very much. It's good to be here.
No, it's good to have
great.
it's good to have you in. You're one of my favorite people, as you know, and I'm going to give you the floor to introduce the guest that you brought in studio.
Okay, thank you. This is Ted Goulet, is the head coach for the Fulmer Boxing Gym. And our new Fulmer Legacy Center that we've been working on for years, the building has been going on for a year and a half. Ted's one of the subcontractors, and he's just basically lived at that building for the last year and a half. And it's just great to have him here. Plus, he spends thousands of volunteer hours working with the kids at our gym.
Very nice. So the Fulmer Legacy Center, we have been talking about this for a few years, and we are ready to talk about the grand opening. So, Ted, thanks for rolling in. How are you, sir?
Thank you. Just fine.
So you're a contractor and a boxing coach, which means you're a tough dude.
I don't know about that. I know maybe I've been hitting the head a little bit too much.
Oh, good, man. So tell me about just kind of your prism, your vantage point, watching this project come to fruition. What has it been like?
Well, if you ever came to our old gym, you would be like, it's about 800 square feet. We have about 200 kids that's registered to our gym, all walks of life. We're a free program from 8 to 6. It's jam-packed in there, and the parents are great, the kids are great, very respectful, and then we come to this, it's like we hit the lottery type of thing. So the Fulmers have fought really hard for us to keep the program going. The kids might see me, and I might be the face, but the the real work is in the back.
Sure.
Where they're trying to get funding and keep the program going when we travel. There's no pressure on the kids. Airfare, food, and hotel are paid for. So that's really a great program for self-defense, for respect, for all kinds of things. Whether you're, from 8 to 40 is what we ask you to be.
Oh, I missed the window.
No, we do have a master's
You're lucky
program.
you missed it.
We do have a master's program
Okay.
for our older gentlemen that come in and want to learn. So that's like I said, you're not too old yet. So.
Oh, I love it. I've actually told Larry I want to come in. I want to bring my son. I want you guys to toughen us up a little bit. But Larry, we were talking off air. You're on the board of directors for the Utah Sports Hall of Fame. And my father was inducted last year, which was a great day for our family. And my high school coach, Mike Maxwell from Bountiful, is about to be inducted. And I told you anecdotally, we were all together for my mother's birthday in February, and we were talking about the Hall of Fame. And my brother said, okay, who's the most accomplished or famous best athlete from the state of Utah? And it was my dad who said it's Gene Fulmer, but nobody ever talks about it. And obviously, you're uniquely qualified to talk about this and this process to open up the Fulmer Legacy Center and in honor of Gene and the whole family, a boxing family. What's this labor of love been like for you?
Oh, it's been, very stressful, actually, for the last few years trying to raise the money. It started out just Ted and Nick Butterfield and I, who met with some folks to see about getting our own gym, because we'd been kicked around from one place to another, because it's always, like I said, it's always a free gym. When Marv Jensen taught Dad and the Fulmer brothers, it was always free to them, and that's what they wanted to do when they started this. And so we've always raised money to send the kids to tournaments and to keep it equipped, but the cities and the different cities in the county have been gracious enough to let us use buildings, but when they need it back, then they kick us out.
Right.
So finally, about 8 years ago, we decided we need our own. So first we were thinking we just need a tin building that we can train the kids in, and we got some people that wanted to donate, an architectural firm, the VCBO, that wanted to donate some work for us on designing a building, and it got bigger and bigger before when it was through, it's a 16,500 square foot building, 2-story building, and it was just then we had to raise money, a $7 million building, and so we've been raising money. Foundations have helped us. We've gotten money from the Collart Foundation, from the state of Utah, the Daniels Foundation, the Eccles Foundation, and various other foundations and groups. And and Celtic Bank has helped us kind of finish it up with a loan for the last little bit until we can raise the rest of that money. And we were able to start construction a year and a half ago. And for the first 6 months, every time I went there, the guys would make fun of me because I'd start crying. 'Cause it was just unbelievable to see it. And this last Friday, we barely got temporary occupancy from the South Jordan City, the buildings in South Jordan, and people were coming in for the state Golden Gloves tournament on Friday, and the city brought me the occupancy permit, and so we were just sweating it until then, and we just had a capacity crowd and a great start to our tournament. And I was just sitting in the corner with a big smile, just couldn't believe that it was happening. So it's been a labor of love for a lot of people, my whole family, and a lot of other volunteers were involved with this. Besides, Grimal Construction did a wonderful job on constructing it. And like I said, Ted's was there every day doing something and making sure things were going right. And the kids are really excited to start training in it. They haven't even started training in it yet because we had to have our tournament ready for so quickly that we couldn't even get all the bags and everything up. So next week they'll start training in it after our state championship tournament this Saturday.
So we'll get to that in a moment. I'm looking this up. Fulmer Legacy Center. We've got an Instagram page. I just followed it. There's a Facebook page. So I would encourage people, just log on your internet browser, whatever you use, Google, that's what I use. Just search Fulmer Legacy Center. And there's a website, which is great, by the way. Nice work on the website. Couple social media touch points, Instagram, Facebook. So follow along just like I did. Ted, let me ask you, just, what does this mean to you? What does this mean watching Larry and the Fulmer legacy, watching this come to fruition as a guy that clearly has sweat equity in this and loves boxing? What does this mean to you?
Oh, it means everything. I was mentored by Jay Fulmer, and when I first pulled up to that gym, there was a little old guy with a few boxers. The brothers would just, I'm sure they're in heaven just clapping and crying and having a good, amazing. I mean,
sparring maybe.
Yeah, sparring. Yeah.
I think they're saying, "What a crazy thing you guys are doing! Are you crazy?"
I'm sure they're looking down with big smiles on their face.
Big smiles. They, I mentioned building a gym years ago when Jay was alive, and Jay said that will never happen in my lifetime, and unfortunately, but we were talking about it when the brothers were alive, and what a great way to remember them. It's a great museum in there. When you first walk in there, the Fulmers have put a beautiful museum together. I mean, even if you're not a boxing fan, you'll think this is Utah history. Mm-hmm. Go and see it. It's free to walk in and look at it. It's I got to pinch myself as well. I'm a part of this, and I tell my wife, it's all worth it. At the end of the day, it's worth it. I see these kids smile on their face. They walk into this big, beautiful building, and it's all free. It's just for them. We build it for them, and that's my payoff there, is the kids.
It's awesome. So, Larry, let's get to some of these events that you texted me about. Let's start with the state championship coming up on tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow.
Saturday. Saturday, March 29th, 6 p.m. What do you want our listeners to know?
So the address of the new facility is 10960 South Park Road, right in the heart of South Jordan, in the South Jordan Park. And the doors will open at 4:30, and we'd suggest that you come early because it was pretty crowded last weekend.
Awesome.
And this will be our championship night for the elite boxers. So these boxers will go on to the regional tournament on April 18th and 19th.
Same location.
Same location. And those winners then will go in May the 12th to Tulsa, Oklahoma for the Nationals. We are also having our grand opening because our building wasn't finished as soon as we wanted it to be, so we couldn't have the grand opening.
It never is.
It never is.
Houses, buildings, whatever it is. You got to tack on an extra few months.
Everything was going really good until right at the end, and then we had some things slow us down. And But anyway, so we heard him and got it ready for the tournaments, and we'll have our open house and ribbon cutting on May the 2nd. Now we'll have ribbon cutting, then we'll have an open house in the afternoon for tours. But that evening we'll have a special event for some dignitaries and VIPs. But I'm hoping to have Deontay Wilder. I just spoke to his manager just a couple of days ago, and he would like to come. He's planning on coming, so we'll keep our fingers crossed there that he comes for the open house and the grand opening.
Awesome. So we've got the state championship. It's coming up tomorrow. That's Saturday at 6 p.m. Regional tournament April 18th at 6 p.m. Then April 19th at 2 p.m. Open house ribbon cutting May 2nd, 11 a.m. with tours afterwards. Small boxing show, Larry, is how you describe it, at 6 p.m. for the VIP and guests. Can you tell us what that's going to look like? Or
we're going to have just maybe about six folks, 6 bouts, and we'll have some awards given. We want to recognize some of the people that have helped us so much with finances and with the building and architecture and so forth, and our coaches. And then probably have a little bit of a fundraiser, an auction with some memorabilia that evening. So, but it should be good. And I'm hoping if Deontay Wilder comes, he's not retired yet. He wants to box one more time.
I didn't know
so
that.
maybe I'm hoping that he'll work out in our gym that afternoon while people were there. That would be fun to see him training.
39 years old. I thought he was retired.
Yeah, and that's why there was a question on whether he could come. If they sign for a fight soon, then he'll be in the middle of training. I would personally like to see him retire. I watched him take the National Golden Glove tournament when he was he was pretty old when he started amateur boxing anyway, and. But he has been a good champion, and he is a good person. I've met him a few times, and his trainer I know, his manager and trainer I know very well. We're good friends. We were on the boxing commissions together. He was from Alabama, and I was on the boxing commission in Utah, and we used to go to meetings and hang out together. So that would be fun if we can get him here. 43
wins, 42 knockouts, 4 losses, 1 draw. Is he really 6'7"?
Yes, he's huge.
Yeah, big guy.
You stand by him, I feel like a hobbit.
Yeah, I mean, every time I've watched him fight, because, I come from the basketball and football world, and I'm like, wait, he looks like an NBA player.
Yeah.
He's one of those boxers that looks like he could have done anything if he wanted to.
He is big. And when you got him and Tyson Fury, when they fought those fights, there was 2 giants in the ring fighting with them.
Ted, let's tap into your coaching side for a moment. Any young prospects in our state? We got the state championship coming up. Anybody you want to point out?
Yeah, we got our young lady. She's Chelsea Davis.
Okay.
She's been to our nationals a few times.
Cool.
I think last year she took bronze last year.
She's in the Olympic trials.
Very nice.
She knocked out the #1 seed in the Olympic trials.
Where is she from?
Last year. She's here in Salt Lake.
She's a local Salt Lake girl.
She was born in Idaho.
Okay.
And she came to move here in Salt Lake, and we plugged her up. Great gal. She fought last weekend, and she won. We asked her to calm down a little bit, not get hurt and all that stuff for the major fights. But she's going to be going to regionals to fight for the championship there. She's already our state champion. And then we have a few upcomers. I'm going to plug my son.
Please do.
He's due. He's gone to national tournaments and took bronze a few times, and he's due for one now. He's doing really well. He's coming back, and then.
Wait, hold on. Before you go, I'm a father.
Yeah.
How old's your boy?
He's 22.
What's his weight class?
He's fights at 125, but he dropped down to 121.
What's it like for you and his mom to watch him throw hands with other people?
His mom doesn't like it so much.
I can't imagine so.
Mom doesn't like it so much.
But Dad's proud?
Yeah. He got hurt last fight on an uppercut.
Okay.
He won the fight by split decision.
Oh.
But he wanted to fight in this tournament first time, and he fought hurt. I was going to stop the fight, but he lost by split decision last weekend. But,
wait, were you working the corner?
I was working the corner, yeah.
Oh my! Because I've got a 23-year-old son.
Yeah.
I'm throwing the towel in. I'm stopping the fight. That's got to be a little bit heart wrenching.
Yeah, but he tells me not to.
Yeah, sure.
I trust me. I will throw that towel in. I had to throw a towel in this last weekend.
Yeah.
On a young man that, it's what people don't understand. The coaches really want to look after their boxers' health
for sure.
So it might upset the crowd. It might upset the boxer. Key thing is their health and make sure they're safe. Between the ref and the doctor and the coaches, we really, especially in the amateurs, really look after the kids.
Yeah,
well, just about all those kids are like his sons and daughters. The kids there. I'll just give you an example of the kind of person he is, but it's not unusual for all the boxing coaches like this. But a kid comes in and he's failing in school, and so he says, "Look, we're not going to let you come back into the gym until you get your grades up to at least a C." So 6 weeks later, the kid comes in, showing him his report card. They got him up to a C, and he's back in. And a lot of times they have to pick the kids up to bring them because the kind of homes that some of the kids come from are they're latchkey kids, and the parents need some help. And these coaches become their mentors, and just like their father, and so that's
I have 200 kids. If you want to say 200 plus kids, if you want to say that. So.
Is that how many young people you're training? 200 plus?
Yeah, 200 plus. Wow. I got a great coaching staff now. We have about four coaches, and they're great as well. It's free. It's all donated time, and I go through a lot of coaches and what have you. Hopefully, we have a few that will stay. I have one coach that his son used to come to our gym. Milo, he a great kid. Now he's opened his own gym, and really great good. Successful story.
Did you bring him in studio last year?
No,
but the time before that I did last year.
Okay.
We brought another young man in that is started. Just was graduating and starting his own business, and
cool.
Yeah, he's doing good too. Ellis, Easton Ellis.
Very nice.
Ellis, yeah, he's got his own little haircut business.
Oh, that's great.
Rise, like Cage was, you just mentioned Cage, come from Mary Gwynn, she came from our gym, and she has a wonderful, successful business in Park City. So, to see that they've come from our little 800 square foot gym and prosper like that is just, it makes a father proud.
And that's probably, Larry, and we got a couple minutes left, that's really what it's all about, right? Because out of the hundreds of kids that walk in your gym, maybe, I don't know, 1, 2 end up fighting professionally, but the rest learn a lot of pretty valuable life lessons. Fair to say?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, boxing is more than just a combat. Boxing, you learn self-esteem, self-discipline, good health. Mental well-being is a part of that, but it just is. It's just good. It's good all around. The amateur boxing is a great sport, and a lot of life lessons learned in this sport.
For sure. All right, before I set you loose, we've got Larry Fulmer and Ted Groulet in studio, and the Fulmer Legacy Center, a labor of love for Larry and people around him, is now ready to be showcased to the public. So let's tell one more time, give everybody all the information you want them to know, address, touch points, the events that are coming up.
So on tomorrow and Saturday, we'll be at 6 o'clock. We'll have the championship for the state Golden Gloves. April the 18th at 6 o'clock will be, and April 19th at 2 o'clock will be our regional tournament. That's with Utah, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, the winners of those. And then on May 2nd, we have our ribbon cutting and grand opening at 11 o'clock at the center. And again, the center's address is 10960 South Park Road in South Jordan, Utah. And the website, fulmerlegacy.org, if you look at that, that'll tell you a little bit about it, tell you the members of our board who all do things voluntarily and have put a lot of work and sweat equity into raising money and so forth as well. But there's a donate button on there, and I can tell you we could really use those donations. It is free for the kids, and we need to be able to keep the doors open in that gym. So
let's get those donations coming in. And as I referenced earlier, Larry just gave you the website. There's also an Instagram page, a Facebook page. So if you're listening at work right now, just log on to your computer or open up a tab, type in Fulmer Legacy Center. Website is the first thing that comes up. Then you will see a Facebook page and an Instagram page to support our good friend Larry Fulmer and now our new friend Ted Groulet. So, gentlemen, thanks for coming in. Congrats on the endeavor, and we'll do it again soon.
Thank
okay?
you very much.
Brought to you today by IFA Country Stores. IFA Country Stores, they have everything you need to make your lawn in tip-top shape. It is warm outside. Time to think about your lawn. IFA's 4+ Lawn Care program can promote healthy green grass this summer. Visit with their team of pro turf and landscape consultants that help provide products and services to local baseball and soccer fields, golf courses, parks, and other city properties throughout Utah. It's the same knowledge and care that they share with you about your yard. Check them out. IFA online at ifa.coop. Broadcasting live today with our good friends at Tim Daly Infinity. You only have a few minutes left to come by and enter to win the Kevin Hart tickets. That's right. We are sending you to see one of the world's most famous comedians. Whether you like that or not is up to you. But if you do, 4594 South State Street is where you come by to enter to win a couple of tickets to see Kevin Hart at Tim Daly Infinity. We've had a really fun show on the program today. They've got a bunch of great offers for you guys. 0% on qualified new vehicles. Tim Daly offers what's called a forever warranty. It makes them one of one. You get a complete powertrain warranty for the life of the vehicle as long as the vehicle qualifies for the offer. So make sure to ask about the forever warranty. Free car washes for life as well. Trade values on the rise due to tariffs. Now, I'm not going to break that down because A, it's political. B, I don't know a rip about the tariff situation. But as of April 1st, tariffs on these vehicles means that your trade value, if you want to trade in a car, is sky high right now. They've got a large selection of EVs as well as hybrids, and they've only got 17 QX80s left. Okay, so the QX80 is kind of like their crown jewel. It's their SUV. It's a beautiful, beautiful car. It looks a lot like a Land Rover, Range Rover, like a beautiful Navigator. They're all over the roads. Infinitis are high-quality cars. They're luxury vehicles, but they've got great pricing and financing options. Q80, 6 to 3 months, 2.9%. Q60s, 72 months, 1.9%. Q50, 72 months for 1.9%, and the QX55 as well. So come on by and say hello at 4594 South State Street. We have had a very, very, very busy show today. A lot going on. We're going to get to the breaking news of the day today during the 5 o'clock hour of the program, where, according to Sportico, Dave Blitzer is in conversations with the Miller family to sell Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals to the Miller family. So they would, of course, continue their endeavor to try to bring Major League Baseball to our market, add professional soccer to kind of their ecosystem as well. We'll keep you up to date on that as we get to the 5 o'clock hour of the program. Utah Jazz are in action tonight. They're on the road taking on the Denver Nuggets. The madness of March continues with 4 more Sweet 16 games after BYU lost to Alabama last night. Their season comes to a close. But we got 3 hours down. We got 1 hour to go. The final hour of the show for the day and for the week comes your way, coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. All right, let's get it. Drive at 5 time. Friday afternoon style, 6 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Happy Friday to you. Congratulations. You made it. It is weekend time. You showed up. You did the things all week long, and now you have earned a much-needed break. Hopefully you get a break from the chaos of your day-to-day grind during the week. So happy Friday to you. Take a big old deep breath. It is time for the weekend. We have a lot going on unexpectedly. First, I want to tell you we're at Tim Daly Infinity at 4594 South State Street. You only have a few minutes left to come on by and enter to win the Kevin Hart tickets. We are sending one lucky listener tonight to Kevin Hart. You're not going to Kevin Hart tonight. We are sending you to Kevin Hart on April, I think it's the 18th, when Kevin Hart is here in Salt Lake City. So if you're interested in grabbing some Kevin Hart tickets, you got to enter to win. We're going to draw a name, and the address is 4594 South State Street. The ESPN 700 van is right out front, so you cannot miss us. And we're just right inside at Tim Daly Infinity, where they have a bunch of great financing options at some of the most luxurious vehicles that they have to offer. The QX80 is the main thing we're talking about. There's only 17 remaining, and they're giving you 2.9 financing on 63 months for a great QX80. It is a luxury SUV. 0% on qualified new vehicles. They offer a forever warranty. Car washes for life. Trade values on the rise due to tariffs, okay? Don't know what that means. They do, so you just come in and ask them questions. Brand new and large selection of EVs as well as plug-in hybrids. So they're going to sell out of these QX80s. If you're interested, you got to rush in at 4594 South State Street. 5 o'clock hour of the program tonight is brought to you by our good friends at Burt Brothers. It is a one-stop shop for reliable repairs and maintenance, from tires and alignments to fluids and brakes. A full range of automotive services tailored to meet your needs, now offering value tire options such as Americas and Summit tires. With tires starting at just $69, Burt Brothers doing it better since day one. Also want to reference Paul Pugmire joined us earlier, gave you a Uinta Golf PGA Tour leaderboard update, which is brought to you by Uinta Golf. Stop by or visit worldwidegolfshops.com for details on the Titleist Pro V1s, Callaway Woods, TaylorMade, and Ping drivers and more with our good friends at Uinta Golf. The tournament down in Houston has actually been suspended due to inclement weather, but Scotty Scheffler matched his own course record by carding a 62 earlier today. Jim Harbaugh has received a contract extension through 2028. Deion Sanders is now one of the top 10 highest paid coaches in all of college football. He lands a $54 million extension. Taylor Jenkins was fired today. The NBA this year has been wild. It doesn't matter if you're a transcendent generational talent, apparently. You can still get traded like Luka Doncic. And it doesn't matter if you're a really good coach who has more wins than any coach in the history of your organization. Apparently you can still be fired. Taylor Jenkins will land a job very quickly. There's no doubt about that. The Jazz are in action tonight. They're taking on the Denver Nuggets at Ball Arena. Not sure who's going to play. That's the problem with covering the Jazz right now. But Denver's still one of the elite teams in the Western Conference. Maybe Walker Kessler and Nikola Jokic go head-to-head. We'll have to see. And, of course, the madness of March resumes tonight as Ole Miss will take on Michigan State. That's your first game that tips off in just a few minutes at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. After that, it's going to be Kentucky, Mark Pope, as well as Colin Chandler, former BYU commit who played his high school ball up in God's country up in Davis County. They're taking on Tennessee. Michigan, Auburn, big game tonight with two really good teams. Auburn's the number one overall seed in the tournament, but Michigan just won the Big Ten championship, and they've been playing some good basketball. And then the late game will be Purdue and Houston. So last night, BYU's season comes to a close. After a really, really solid year one under Kevin Young. Proof of concept certainly in place, but Alabama certainly was historic. They could not miss. BYU did themselves no favors by playing very lackadaisical perimeter defense. 113-88 was your final score. And, we talked about this on the program yesterday. We talked about a couple of dynamics on the program yesterday where ultimately, prior to the game, we pointed out that one outlier may come into play. So Alabama is one of the best teams in the SEC at guarding the three. And BYU, for all of their strengths, for all the things they do well, for their shot-making ability, their free-flowing offense, their sharing of the basketball, and at times ability to pressure and force turnovers, they have not guarded the three-point line well all year long. In fact, they're one of the worst teams in college basketball. I think they're 228th in the country at guarding the three. And that manifested into very problematic situations on defense for Brigham Young as Alabama was able to capitalize on weak perimeter defense to knock down 25 three-point shots, which is an insane number. It's an insane number in the NBA. It's especially crazy in the ecosystem of college basketball. The record was held by Loyola Marymount back in the day. Bo Kimball, that was the Hank Gathers team. Hank Gathers, of course, tragically passed away on the court. Coached by Paul Westhead. They knocked down 21 threes. I think it was 1990, 1991. So it took that record basically 35 years to be broken, and Alabama did it last night by hitting 25 threes. They broke it by 4 threes. Mark Sears, first-team All-American. He is the active leading scorer in all of Division I. Started his career at Ohio before transferring to Alabama. A career-high 10 three-point shots made by Mark, and he became the first player in NCAA tournament history to make 10 threes or more and have 8 assists or more. Aiden Holloway, 6 of 13. Chris Youngblood, 5 of 11. Like, Aiden Sherrill came off the bench and knocked down his 2 threes. Like, this was a case where Bama certainly shot lights out, but you've got to provide some pressure defensively on the perimeter. A lot of those were practice shots. A lot of those were walk-in threes, catch-and-shoot threes. And Mark Sears and Aiden Holloway become the first teammates in the history of the NCAA tournament to both knock down more than 6 three-point shots. And also last night, Mark Sears broke the record for three-point shots made against BYU. That was held by former Syracuse great, shout out John Paul, Jerry McNamara, who hit 9 threes once upon a time against Brigham Young, and Mark goes for 10 last night. So BYU season comes to a close, and now the conversation simply becomes what's next for them. And who do they get back? Who goes to the pros? I'm going to guess that Yegor Demon leaves. But other than that, Kevin Young might get almost everybody back. Now, there are seniors on this group. Trevin Nell, of course, certainly is a senior, to say the least. And then Fus Traore is gone. Trey Stewart is gone. I've stopped guessing as to whether or not careers are actually over because of the ability to transfer as a grad student. So maybe, I would doubt Trevin Nell transfers as a grad student, but maybe Traore does. Maybe Trey does. I don't know. We'll have to see. But those seniors are gone, but Richie Saunders could be back. Now, Richie's 23. The question for Richie is, do you want to get your NBA career started right now? If Richie goes through the draft process and gets feedback that he actually could make a roster, at the age of 23, you want to get that clock ticking because you want to get to your second contract. I don't think Dallin Hall's an NBA player. I know he wants to be. Maybe Dallin comes back as well, and if Yegor takes off and Dallin comes back, maybe that's your starting point guard. So we'll have to see, but proof of concept certainly manifested itself year one under Kevin Young down at BYU. A little bit of Utah news today as Yana Neepkins has hit the transfer portal. Really unfortunate piece of news for the Utes. She had a historic season this last year, 50-40-90 essentially, and we pontificated on the possibility that Gianna would leave the Utes for the WNBA. I didn't anticipate her transferring, but my guess is she's going to get paid a nice handsome sum of money to play college basketball next year somewhere else. Finally, before we catch a break, Sportico is reporting that the Larry H. Miller Corporation is in conversations with Real Salt Lake and Utah Royals majority owner David Blitzer to buy a controlling stake in the 2 soccer franchises, according to a report from Sportico. So a lot of noise around this. Don't know what this means for Ryan Smith or Arctos Partners and their portion of the RSL Royals situation. My guess is they're completely going to be out of it. I don't think they were ever really all that committed. So we'll, of course, stay on top of this story. My guess is over the weekend we're going to have a lot of information come our way that we'll bring to you coming up next week. Speaking of next week, we are on the road, Viva Las Vegas, for the College Basketball Crown. We're going to be there at least on Monday, maybe Tuesday. If Utah wins on Monday, we'll be there through Thursday. That means I'm going to come home with a lot of stories during my time in Vegas. All right, we'll catch a quick break. More on all these stories coming up with Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune, live from Tim Daly Infinity at 4594 South State Street on this Friday afternoon. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping up the program, Friday edition of The Drive. It's a fun night once again of college and pro basketball. Utah Jazz are in action. They'll tip off in about an hour from now down at Ball Arena in Denver. And the Sweet 16 going on right now with 4 more games before we can understand and learn who will be in the Elite Eight. So BYU season comes to an end last night at the hands of a red-hot Alabama Crimson Tide team. Alabama advances to the Elite Eight for the second straight year. That was a Final Four team a year ago. Lost a great game to UConn. Mark Sears, man, that kid is a good player. And we've got some really good basketball tonight to keep you guys company on this Friday evening. Special thanks to our friends here at Tim Dolly Infinity at 4594 South State Street. Come on by and check out their Q80s, their QX55s, QX50s, and QX60s. 72 months, 1.9% financing for the latter three. And on a QX80, you get 63 months for 2.9%. Luxury automobiles, man. These are beautiful cars. So if you've ever been interested in one, they've got great financing options available for you. Porter, why have you not been bragging today about the fact that you have kind of a sizable lead in our ESPN 700 Crew Bracket Challenge?
I like to keep it humble in those regards until it goes final. Then you'll hear plenty from me.
Or is it that, or is it I'm on remote and we just haven't really had you on the show very much?
It's a little bit of both. If you give me space, I'll bring it up. I'll brag about it. But yeah, I gotta wait. Man. I do have a pretty good lead. If Auburn goes on to win it, not only in the ESPN 700 bracket, but in a bunch of brackets I'm doing, I'm going to be pretty well off. So
all right.
We'll wait until Final Four weekend to really get ahead of ourselves.
I've got Michigan over Auburn tonight. If Michigan and Michigan State win, I've got a fighting chance. I admit that it's not a great look to fill out multiple brackets, but I did fill out 2 this year. And in my other bracket, I'm 4 for 4 after last night's game for the Elite Eight, and all 4 of my Elite Eight teams are playing tonight. So I do have a chance to save face in the Checketts family bracket because right now my 9-year-old nephew Will is winning, and the problem is with my nephews getting older. Now that my nephews are getting older, stuff like this, all they do is talk crap to me because like, Uncle Spencer, you're a sports talk radio host, and I'm beating you in fantasy football or the brag. Like, I don't want to hear it from these brats.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need a big night tonight so I can beat my nephews because they're just trolling me all the time.
Yeah, you can't lose to Will. That's just setting you up for trash talk that you don't have much rebuttal from. When you're getting trash talk from a 9-year-old who's beating you in something, it's kind of hard to fire back at all. So yeah, you gotta make up some ground there.
I need Houston, I need Michigan, I need Tennessee and Michigan State. If I can get those 4, then my 9-year-old nephew ain't got nothing on me, I'll tell you that much. All right, on Monday, stay tuned because we are live in Las Vegas, so it's about to get weird, okay? I might throw some cards before the show, you never know. So, Porter, before we get out of here for a Friday show, I know Monday's a bit fluid, but what do we have coming up?
Yeah, as you mentioned, we'll be live from the College Basketball Crown in Las Vegas, so if you tune in during what is normally the drive, you're going to hear some Utah men's basketball. That guy, Josh Eilert, we just heard from, of course, will be in action on Monday. We'll get going at the, after the game, probably around 4 o'clock local, maybe a little bit after. Sean Mooney, who will be on the call, is going to hang around for a little bit as well. Hopefully OC as well to hop on the show with you. We'll have some RSL stuff from the weekend. We'll chat with Josh Furlong as we do each and every week. And then our NBA Daily Assist guest to be determined based on the timing of Monday's show. But we'll go in that direction as well.
All right. The big news of the day today is that the Miller Corporation, the Larry H. Miller Corporation, in conversations with Dave Blitzer about buying RSL. John and Eakins, unfortunately, has hit the transfer portal on the Utah women's basketball side of things. For more on these stories, stay tuned to the shows next week, and we will say goodnight. Special thank you. Howard Beck, Andy Larson, Paul Pugmire, Josh Eilert, and Larry Fulmer. For any of the sound you may have missed from the show today or all week or forever, quite frankly, it's all up on the website, ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app. It's free. And then support us on our podcast page. If you like what we do, the best way for you to support us is going to your preferred podcast catcher, searching The Drive with Spence Checketts, smashing that subscribe button or follow button. Everyone does it differently. And then while you're there, give us a rating. If you give us all the stars and say nice things about the show, it actually does help. Reporter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Special thank you to Spencer, my on-site tech. We will talk to you on a Monday drive. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Talk to you on Monday live in Las Vegas right here on ESPN 700.